Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Jamin.
I'm Jamie.
And we are here to have a conversation with all of you on the topic of saving life on Earth. And if you'd like to join this conversation, please look below to the link to another YouTube video, which has an invitation to the conversation and also provides the link to join. You click on that link in that description of that video, and you'll be able to join this conversation, and everyone is welcome. So please join us. And let me make sure let me just make sure that posted successfully. Jamie, if you want to kind of kick off the topic.
Well, what we are going to be bouncing around is utilizing all the minds that are willing to bring input to this conversation about saving life on Earth. And the format's sort of like radicalizing intelligence, radical collective intelligence, which pulls in everyone's ideas and opinions and thoughts. And then we'll try to parse out with you guys just what exactly can be done. And even if the only thing that can be done is it's prolonged, that's better than not prolonged. So all options and views are we're hoping we get them from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So please click on the link in the description below to find the YouTube video wherein you will find the link to join, as well as an invitation. So, what's it going to take to save life on Earth? Something, radically different than what we're doing right now. Because right now we're all participating with various degrees of consciousness in a collective death spiral of our species and of all species and of all ecosystems and of Mother Earth herself, of Gaia herself. So how do we get out of the death spiral? It's going to take something radical. Of course, full disclosure, I believe that radical collective intelligence is that goose that will lay the golden eggs of all the solutions and all the strategies and all the platforms and everything that we'll need to accomplish this radical transformation, this radical departure, this radical detour, off-ramp from the highway to hell and toward a new path toward utopia, with no promise or attachment that we'll get to any particular utopia. But at least let's set our direction on a course toward that. And I think that given what's possible with radical collective intelligence, including the various forms of artificial intelligence included therein, I think we have the potential actually to get pretty far down the path towards utopia, and certainly back off from the brink of extinction and actual extinction that so many species are experiencing every day.
Well, we didn't get into this situation quickly. The current conditions of the climate and fossil fuels, and going back possibly to the Iron Age, we gradually worked our way here. And once we stopped worrying about our basic instincts, food, shelter, all that stuff, then we had free time, then income, earnings, envy, and here we are. So but because we didn't do it intentionally, it took a long time. That's why we have a chance, because we can try to reverse course intentionally. And if we did that intentionally, we're not drifting towards this future. We're driving towards the correct one.
Yeah, with intention and a massively higher form of intelligence than anything we've seen on Earth that's human-based. Massively higher by orders of magnitude. That's what is imminently possible given the state of evolution of artificial intelligence and myriad information and communication technologies generally, including the ability to broadcast and record live video conferences that anyone can join. I mean, how cool is that? I think with all of these technologies combined in a particular way, as we talk about in the series on radical collective intelligence, starting with the introduction above in the topic tree, on the top part of the topic tree on the homepage of radish.org. Let me be clear about that. We have the potential to create something absolutely phenomenal, as we discussed in that series of videos, in terms of a collective intelligence that can generate all the solutions that we need that are physically possible.
That would be the goose laying the golden eggs.
Yes. Radical collective intelligence is the goose that lays the golden eggs of solutions. And the technologies that we possess put us in a position that we can create that goose. We can co-create that goose. Will we co-create that goose? Right? Time will tell. But we don't have a lot of time left. So I say we give it our best shot. Let's create the best collective intelligence capability, the goose that will lay those golden eggs, consisting of people and platform. Or people and platforms, plural.
Yeah, platforms.
Yeah.
And they're going to interact and learn how to interact in more and more efficient ways to get the best ideas out and to create the best solutions.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And we'll do that by networking within the community, using the networking tools, social networking tools and otherwise. But we will also do it with the benefit of various layers of artificial intelligence that will help guide us to other people. You and I have a pretty good thing going with our collaborations.
Yes.
Right? And we're opening up our collaborations to the world more and more so that you all can join us and be a part of these conversations. But what if it weren't just left up to chance for you and I to meet each other in this life, or not, right? What if the AI helped guide us together? So sort of like, you know, as you said, a Match.com for brains, right? For people.
It's like a dating app for intellect.
For solutionaries.
Solutionaries.
A Match.com for solutionaries.
Right.
Right? And so it learns all about you, and it learns all about all the solutionaries who are participating in the radical collective intelligence, and based on what they learn about you and observing you in your various interactions on your various, you know, recorded hangouts, right, that you participate in on various topics, it learns how you interact with other people. And using, you know, the various flavors of AI that are all about essentially pattern matching and pattern discovery, deep learning and such, it will be able to, the layers of AI will be able to deduce, hey, you're able to be most productive and most passionate and really contribute the most value on these topics, and when you're interacting with these various kinds of people. Hey, looks like Michael's joining us. Michael, how you doing?
Well, good to be here.
Hey, so great to see you. What a pleasant surprise. So we've just been jumping in, talking about saving life on Earth and about radical collective intelligence generally. So anyway, just, you know, nothing that we haven't covered with you, Michael. Anyway, just want to welcome Michael from joining us from Thailand.
Thank you.
Great to see you. All right. So, you know, we've given a brief introduction to radical collective intelligence, but where we've really emphasized the capability of the, let's just call it RCI, radical collective intelligence, the capability of the RCI to, you know, connect people with various characteristics, let's say, right? Because it's going to be learning all about us, the participants in the RCI, the community, the members of the community, and observing which meetings are productive and which are not, and observing, you know, what series of meetings and contributions in the design phase, in the modeling phase, etc., what was the sequence that ultimately led to a successful solution being implemented. So
Right.
it'll be able to learn from other success and also learn from the failures. What caused this solution to go off the rails?
Or even the conversation to go off the rails.
There you go.
You might not get to a solution. You might just have 6 meetings and it feels like you're getting somewhere, but it turns out like a hung jury, you've accomplished nothing.
Yeah.
And so maybe that topic shouldn't be revisited, or maybe we put the wrong people in that topic.
Yeah.
Give that topic to totally different people. Who will they be? Radish will find them.
Yeah.
I don't have to go to the library and bump into smart people.
Yeah.
I can just dial them up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay? I don't have to go to the symposiums and leadership conferences. I can just click.
Yeah.
And they're available.
Right. They're available, subject to certain filters.
Of course.
Right.
Of
Their own willingness to be available and the extent to which they take the suggestions of the AI. So the AI suggests, but it's up to each individual to make their own choice.
We have to follow up. We're always going to have free choice.
Yeah.
We can free choice ourselves to the end of the goal here. We're about to do that. So
Right. So freedom of choice around participation in which specific conversations
and level of input.
Yeah. Hey, Adam, welcome. How you doing?
Hey, doing great, guys. Hey, Michael, Jamie.
Great to see you, Adam.
Yeah, I just see your message, so I got on here.
Hey, I'm really happy you did. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks for joining. Yeah, we're talking about radical collective intelligence as the grand meta solution, that goose that will lay the golden eggs of all the specific solutions. And we're just kind of speculating about the capabilities of the RCI, radical collective intelligence, to the goose to connect people and to suggest that certain people connect with each other on certain topics. And it will achieve this ability through extensive AI analysis, deep learning analysis, pattern recognition, pattern discovery, flavors of AI that will discover which combinations of people talking about which topics produce the most effective, forward progress in terms of getting necessary solutions implemented in the real world. That's the name of the game.
It's like a referee calling the plays. Balls or strikes. Balls or strikes. Basically, this topic is not helpful, or this way it was approached was not helpful.
Yeah.
And this is a different way to approach with different people for no reason other than that it needs a different approach.
Exactly. And and just like a good 3rd grade teacher, right? If 2 kids start quarreling in a corner, they'll know what to do. In our case, if a group of human beings is kind of in a negative cycle, an unproductive cycle, some combination of the AI and the participants
will catch that.
Exactly. And be able to
and gently suggest ways out.
Exactly. Like, you know what, we're actually gonna mute you for now. You've been interrupting too much.
Yeah.
It can detect when people are interrupt other people, right? Kind of like an automated, yellow card or red card kind of thing. Right.
Exactly.
So anyway, so it'll provide all these services to lubricate and to push forward and to fertilize myriad conversations and other constructive processes like collective design, like brainstorming, all the different processes that need to take place within radical collective intelligence. Right. It'll coax them all along. So it's people in full partnership with artificial intelligence, and more generally in full partnership with the platform, the platforms of RCI.
So we're going to go ahead.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, well, I know that this question of artificial intelligence it's one that's been getting a lot of attention lately, not only in terms of its potential capabilities, its upsides, but its downsides. Elon Musk has highlighted some of them in the media, and I know Adam also has some misgivings as well, and I would be interested at some point in and kind of working through some of those, talking about those, and maybe ways in which CI can actually mitigate some of those, and to be able to say, you know, what it is we're talking about in terms of using AI and what we're not talking about. Because I think that's a very important part of this part of the platform we're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's a valuable conversation to have. You know, basically what we're talking about is not some kind of, you know, strong AI that, you know, has, you know, some massive spectrum of capabilities. We're talking about actually a relatively focused, dare I say, narrow band. I mean, it can certainly be broadened, and I'm sure it will be over time. But initially, what are we talking about? A relatively narrow band of AI capabilities of pattern matching and essentially detecting what patterns are correlated with successful solutions being implemented in the real world, right?
I'm going to give my opinion on this as a non-tech, unabashedly low tech, but I learn and I'm listening. So I bring that kind of like Adam's perspective of I'm a little bit afraid of this. But what I've listened and learned while getting involved in this project, and I've been keeping a keen ear towards this, you know, big brother machine we're going to make. And that's really not at all the way I envision it and what I've heard anybody talking about. What I've heard, the discussions from the people that are doing this, Jamin and everyone around and Michael and some other people, I hear them creating a coach that's going to help me use the best of my brain because I'm not very good at it. And while the coach is helping us maximize our brains, we will be continuing to code it to help it to get better at that job. So it's a servant AI, if you could name it that. It's not going to be running the show. It's going to be created as a very valuable tool, like a chainsaw when the trees across the road. It's going to free us to take advantage of the technology that exists and that will be created, and the way we need to think together as a hive efficiently with a coach calling the shots. Hey, that's not working. Try this. Hey, this isn't working. Try that. So we can get the solutions we need out of, you know, the golden eggs. That's the way I see it. I mean, I want everybody to talk about it because I love this conversation, but I don't see it as a big scary computer that we can't shut off. And there should be fail safes in the design to create that. That's really the simple. You could write the code and that can only respond to what you write.
Yeah. Please, Adam, jump in. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, the way I look at it is, mankind, we're sitting at a crossroads now that we've passed so many tripping points that are tipping points that we need Superman to save us. You know, we need something almost supernatural to save us. Well, the only thing we have that's the closest thing to supernatural is artificial intelligence, artificial superintelligence to be specific, which it looks like, you know, collective intelligence has that potential. But I think we need collective intelligence because we need our Superman. That doesn't mean that we can let it run irresponsibly, in my opinion. I think we have to make it, we have to design it. I mean, if a big developer gets a hold of it, they're going to have responsibility. They're going to make sure it can't escape. Because if it has access to the whole World Wide Web, well, there needs to be some kind of a what do you call it? A diode that doesn't let it escape. It can bring stuff in. It can, you know, bring stuff in, but it can't put anything out. Something like that.
Sure. Yeah. So there's going to be numerous, safeguards. How you doing? There's good. There's going to be numerous safeguards that we're going to need to design and develop for this. And I think, as Jamie indicated earlier, or perhaps Michael, it's collective intelligence itself that will determine what those safeguards should be, right? So rather than imagine doomsday, and not to suggest that this is what you're doing at it, but just to take it to an extreme, rather than imagine doomsday scenarios of AI out of control and oh my goodness, what could we possibly do to prevent that? Let's turn it around and first talk about the potential of RCI, radical collective intelligence, and then seeing what the potential that it has to exponentiate and just keep growing by orders of magnitude over time. With that capability, we can figure out how to best safeguard.
Yeah, and
yeah, go ahead, Michael. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the potential of AI itself is something in terms of its potential for good is something that collectively we ought to be employing and implementing. But I think there's a very real concern here that CI itself, at least this radical form of CI that we're envisioning, has that may be the antidote to, and that is, imagine the likes of Facebook, just as an example, being in control of a lot of AI capabilities, right? Would we trust, Facebook with that, given what that we haven't even been able to trust them with personal, information and data mining and these outside, political groups. And so imagine just a company like Facebook, because of their position in the marketplace, being able to have that kind of control. And so it seems to me that what is needed is, as an antidote to that, is a different kind of or a different form of organization that is able to decide what the appropriate applications are of AI, and that would be a collective form of organization as opposed to an individualistic one, controlled by the bottom line interests of a relatively few shareholders. In other words, what's driving the design, development, and the implementation of AI, right? Is it money, or is it something higher?
Yeah,
in a radical form of CI, of course, would say something higher.
Yeah. Yeah, and just consider it. Let's put it in the following terms. Imagine there's this boxing match between the highest form of artificial intelligence and radical collective intelligence, right? Who's going to win the boxing match? Who's going to be the stronger form of intelligence? Well, to put it in the following very simple terms, it's like a boxing match between Muhammad Ali in one corner, and in the other corner, Muhammad Ali with a loaded machine gun, right? My point is that artificial intelligence combined with collective human intelligence, in turn intelligently orchestrated, intelligently meshed with the AI itself, is always going to be smarter than just pure AI on its own. Duh, right? What could possibly have more sugar than a chocolate cupcake, 2 chocolate cupcakes, 10 chocolate cupcakes? And in this case, you're talking about combining artificial intelligence, which is one form of intelligence, with human intelligence, not just human intelligence, collective human intelligence, a whole different form, right? How could it possibly be less intelligent than just pure AI, right? My point being that radical collective intelligence can always control, right, and put appropriate boundaries on, and if necessary, shut down certain forms of AI. What could possibly do that? Something, and it would have to be something quite a bit smarter than the AI itself, right? Or as my grandpa said, you know, if you're going to train a dog, you have to be, you know, smarter than the dog, right?
Okay, so that being said, and what I'm hearing from the guys, that people have said, is there's a strong feeling that there needs to be a kill switch, that the AI that's RCI can't turn off. Similar to the nuclear weapon problem, there are many of those in many parts of the world. And because the clear and present danger of letting one of those go off, we have set up a system of checks and balances, and pretty much all the countries that don't even get along treat their nukes the same, because one mistake and it's over. This is going to be very much like that. And what I think I'm hearing, and I sense to some degree, we need a fail-safe system that is ultimately a slave, or maybe what you're saying is adding an increased layer to dominate the working layer to protect us.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, so it's like, you know, a chainsaw is dangerous. How are you going to make sure that the chainsaw doesn't take over the world? You put a human in charge of it who's smarter than the chainsaw, right? AI is a chainsaw. What could possibly be smarter than the smartest form of AI? Radical collective intelligence.
All of us who made it.
Radical CI. Why? Because radical CI avails itself of AI, right? In ways that it controls completely, right? Down to every last line of the code, right? So anyway, it's so for me, it's really largely a moot point. And that's not to say that I can't envision, you know, horrific scenarios of AI. It's like, you know, just, you know, imagine a dumb computer virus that was written in 1985, right?
Mm-hmm.
A dumb computer virus, very dumb technology, very easy to, you know, pick apart and actually shut down and, you know, debilitate and all that. And imagine, you know, really great antivirus software from 2018. You think this super sophisticated antivirus software from 2018, which is designed to kill viruses, written in 2018, is going to have any trouble with a virus written in 1985? Hello? Right? So that's what we're talking about. Having a radical collective intelligence that is orders of magnitude smarter than the smartest AI. Right?
Yeah, and it's not just about it being smarter. Of course, that's necessary, but I would argue insufficient. It's also the collective nature of CI, as opposed to individual interests being in control, which is frankly the primary, you know, the dominant form of economy now, driven by, you know, the few exploiting at the expense of the, you know, the many wage earners, for better and worse, you know, for the collective. But at the end of the day, who's making a lot of those decisions? Is it a democratic process, right, that actually has some real legitimacy, or is it just who happens to have the capital to be able, you know, the resources to be able, you know, to deploy something, you know, at first for the benefit of the shareholders, you know, the main stakeholders, but at the same time, it's just a question of the very, you know, revolution that we've been talking about all along, moving away from that individualistic paradigm to a collective form of control over, you know, our own destiny and that life on Earth. So anyway, that was just something I wanted to flag, because it is an important conversation to have, and I know there's going to be a lot of folks, you know, who are going to wonder about that. So it's better to address it head on, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a really good point. And to put it, I'm sorry, am I interrupting, Michael?
No, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, to put it in terms of focus, narrow focus versus broad focus, if I as an individual code up a piece of AI, right, and I put it out there, it's designed with whatever my narrow goal or broad goal is, but whatever the nature of the goal, it comes from my individual perspective. Now imagine radical collective intelligence, which is open to, at least in theory anyway, every single human being on Earth to participate in. It has the potential to have a massively more rich and dense and inclusive perspective, including all people, ecosystems.
It'll hear all voices.
It'll hear all voices. And as such, so I think that's what I'm hearing in what you said, Michael, in terms of the inherent power of radical CI as opposed to AI.
Yeah, both the intelligence and the collective and the radical, right?
Yeah. And the human part, my goodness, right? Yeah. I mean, let's face it, human intelligence, at least at this point in 2018, human intelligence is still very much at the table. We haven't been replaced by AI, right? We still have to do our own thinking. We still have to file our own taxes.
Yeah, and AI, I think, ought to be seen as a tool.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not just any old tool, but a tool nonetheless. And one that us, sapiens, right? A tool using species is going to resort to, right? And the question is, to what end?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think as we go along in this conversation, and as these conversations develop, I think Michael's point is well taken, that this is a topic that needs to be taken on front and center, and we keep the dialogue going. And not in every conversation, but periodically we go back to it and say, this is the development we're at, and here's what are your concerns? Because I see it as a leg under the stool to keep us alive. We are not going to be able to do it without it. So it's a necessary tool. It's not well, let's see if it helps tool. It's, at this point, our only place to turn. So we have to govern it until it can govern itself and be a tool that just does the job, a log splitter that never stops. It's just boom, boom, ideas, collation, collaboration. And that will make us more efficient. And then we can do the heavy lifting of breaking down the dams and geoshading and all that sort of stuff, because we can't do both. We can't be idea-centric and also, while I'm making this video about ideas, be running a tractor to change the way the ground is laid so we have better usage and altering what we have to do. This is a critical tool to free us to get to the ideas and get them implemented. AI is not going to implement anything. It's going to implement ideas that we have to implement. We have to do it. We have to have planes to take the geoshading products to where they have to go, and humans to put them there. So we need a field general. So that's should we make sure it knows it's just a field general and not God all the time? We're going to make sure it's all the time. It's just a field general, but it's a good one. It's the one we need. Someone's going to hold these tarps out. Go ahead, Adam.
Well, yeah, I think I've been thinking about, the Road to Life plan with respect to collective intelligence. And in the Road to Life plan, collective intelligence is there to answer questions. It doesn't make decisions, except for that it does make decisions. Because, I mean, it has to go through a process where it picks out the most relevant things to present to the topic team. So it's making decisions all the time. But the final most important decisions should be made by the topic team and or the vote of the people, yes. Which is why I asked you if collective intelligence would be a place where people could come and vote. And you said yes.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So I think that's a very important part in the Road to Life plan anyway. That's how I interpret it. And collective intel, and also, the collective intelligence or radical collective intelligence, you're in a box. I mean, it can be contained, and and then there's rules and stuff. It seems like it wouldn't be that hard to get it contained or keep it contained, and then like Jamie says, this is our general. I mean, we need a Superman to save us, and that's what it is. So I'm really on board that we need to, it needs to come together and work.
Well, Adam nailed it, and I would just say the correct word here, and just I think by using a different word, can allay people's fears. Radical collective intelligence will be making decisions on how to get to the best suggestion. And then it will give us the suggestion, and we will present that to the family of RCI globally, and they will decide yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah, and if I may,
yes.
And so, and if the community, the RCI community of humans, gives it a collective thumbs up, then that community, which is which combined with the platform represents the greatest intelligence on Earth, the greatest human-based intelligence on Earth. If that community decides to implement it, it will then figure out the best way to implement it,
right,
and watch it get it done, right? Because it's the smartest entity on the planet.
That's what I envision. We're going to be putting all our heads together. Literally, all of the heads and the brains are going to be communing. So it's not going to be smarter than that. And we're going to take the suggestions and we're going to say, this seems great. We should have done this in the beginning. Or I never thought of this. What do you guys want to implement? Here's the data point. This is what came out today. And we have a 24-hour period. And then we activate. Okay, that's a yes. We got to get a hold of Alcoa, TRW, Boeing. We got to boom, 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 implement while that thing's churning more butter.
Yeah.
Solutionaries.
That's it. Yeah. What could be more powerful than a planetary community of solutionaries supported by an ICT platform
that's working exclusively to save us?
Yes.
Its mission is to make sure we don't go away. Its mission isn't to save itself, because once we're saved, we can turn it off and go back to a different kind of lifestyle.
Well, more generally, it's not just the mission of the platform. It's the mission of the platform plus the community of humans.
Yes, indeed. I read that.
Yeah. So with that, and well, how do you ensure all the humans want the same mission? In order to be a member of the Radical CI, there are certain things you have to agree to.
Yeah.
That I am here to positively support the development of solutions to save as much of life on Earth as possible. And I am not here to be a negative, stone thrower.
I'm not an obstacle.
Yeah.
I'm pushing forward. I'm not pulling back.
That's exactly right. Right. So there's certain things that are basic tenets of participation in radical collective intelligence. Well,
let me say this about that, and then I'm going to quit talking and start listening. As we go through the process of building it, and I want everybody to think about this really important thought. It's not mine, it just keeps passing through my mouth. The standards by which all future RCIs will be governed and controlled, we will be making those, inventing those as it gets created. So the governing body, the United Nations of Ideas, will be, we now have this accreditation standard that everybody has to meet in order to get this type of product. How do we know that? Because we made the best one, the first one, generation one. We made it. So we know where the trouble spots can be, how it can turn in the wrong direction. And it becomes an accreditation standard that we're going to create while we create this, the gold standard.
Yeah.
So you don't have some rogue guy that's not in our thing, and he's just going to go do it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's a fail-safe.
Yep.
So that when this is up and running, it will possibly house like Vienna. It'll become the Vienna of intelligence, because it's all, the whole point of everything that happens in Vienna is study, fail-safe, protection, awards. It's almost like a nirvana of intellect. Okay, and so this is just going to take that model and blow it up. That's what I think.
Well, you know, we put a lot of faith in the brakes of our car. I mean, things have to be designed for safety, and this is just another one of them. That's all. And you know, we need a car to get out of here. You know, so that's where I'm coming.
Is that why you ride an electric bike, Adam?
Yes, and I love it.
Well, it's all very. I think it's very good to have these kinds of conversations that take into account the potential dangers we face. At the same time, ironically, I think part of the problem is that that things like AI have yet to be developed enough. So while we need to have those fail-safes in place, we need more intelligence than ever before, because the problems we're facing are compounding. And like a runaway train, we're going to need Superman, to fly in before it's too late, to save the passengers. So it's not right now like the main problem is AI is getting the upper hand on humanity. The problem is that humanity is up against the wall of its own stupidity. As smart as we are driven biologically in such a way where we're procreating, populating and replenishing the planet in a way that doesn't give a lot of foresight to the future of planet Earth. And but we are at a crossroads here where we can see the consequences of our action on a global scale, and now we just need the intelligence and, of course, the goodwill to be able to figure out what to do about it. And that's going to require a healthy dose of AI, and CI is really the best context in which to develop all of those capabilities, and the sooner the better. So the primary focus here is how to develop all those tools and then to integrate them into a platform for, saving life on Earth.
That's definitely a big part of it, but it's also how do we bring in the community? So it's a more complex puzzle, because yes, what are the elements of the platform that need to come together, but the people and the platform, there's a dialectic between the two. See, right now we've got a relatively small number of people working on the platforms for radical collective intelligence. And that's a big problem, because the platforms are only growing but so fast. And that's a big part of why we're rallying the technology sector. In fact, that's a huge part, if not the biggest part, of why we're rallying the technology sector to join the race for solutions to abrupt climate change, including but not limited to building the platforms for radical collective intelligence, the goose that will lay the golden eggs of all the solutions that we need.
Yeah. There's no question that the problem's clear. The solution is potentially available, but the one thing that no one ever has enough of is time. And that adage has come home to roost here. We're out of time. And if that's in fact true, and it appears to be true, when we can wait another year to see how that goes, but every second that goes by that this platform's not being built is a second that might be the 1 second that we don't make it. Because there's going to be a last second.
Yeah.
And we'd like to put that off a couple 100,000 more years. It could be much sooner than that, the last second. So we got to get this thing going.
That's right.
I mean, you know, what's more important than, you know, even if we're unsuccessful at changing the world and we're unsuccessful at getting a new order of the way to live, and all we do is save this capitalistic society, that's still a victory. Because then there's hope. So we got to save it, even if we got to save it in spite of itself.
Yeah.
And then there's hope.
Yeah.
And if we're successful at saving it and it still sucks, it's better than the alternative.
Right.
But that's not to say talking about other options like Adam is doing. He's writing things. He's making a plan for other options. It's a great contribution. We want all the options, but all I'm saying is the worst case scenario of us not burning up to the end of the sun is we just saved this messy mess. That would be beautiful. And then there's always hope after that. Right now, there's no hope. But we are going to make RCI, which will give us hope and give us suggestions. And if a few of them work, we'll get better at taking them. And maybe we stop that last second. That's just the way
I don't know. Have you talked to your programmers about this? And, you know, because there might be some fairly simple solutions that, you know, they could write a little bit here and there, or maybe every day they could, you know, they could like store stuff in virtual memory and then dump it. You know what I mean? Or, you know, some kind of safeguard could be built in there. They could just, without much difficulty. And so, you know, I don't know. That's my question.
A safeguard to safeguard against what?
You know, just to well, you know, I mean, a computer itself is artificial intelligence, but in this realm, you know, I mean, it'll be set up so it's going to be learning. They'll have access to all the patents, and, you know, I mean, I was writing it up about, like, say we put it to the task of developing, of coming up with a clean, endless supply of energy. So it goes out and it gathers all this information together. You know, it seeks out information from every place that it can get a hold of. It scans, you know, it almost instantaneously. It scans all the videos on YouTube and you know, and scans the libraries with patents and you know, and accumulates all the relevant information. And then it selects the most relevant, and it somehow it learns it has to model it, because it has to come up with the decisions for how does it select one thing over another, and how does it put things together. So somehow it has to be smart enough to be able to build its own models as it goes. And so artificial intelligence can grow at very rapid rates. So it just, I don't know, it just has to have some kind of locks or catches in there. And, you know, but it's also that radical collective intelligence, maybe it doesn't even need to use, I mean, maybe I don't even know what I'm talking about. I mean, maybe it doesn't even need to use, you know, maybe it can just use narrow or weak forms of artificial intelligence. And, you know, like the kind you have in your super search engines, you know, like on your phone, on your iPhone, you had a search engine. Siri is an artificial intelligence. And so this is the kind of artificial intelligence I'm talking about, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point, Adam, because, so first of all, we don't know what, you know, forms of artificial intelligence radical CI will ultimately avail itself of. We just don't know. It's impossible to predict at this point. It may include forms of artificial intelligence that don't even exist today. But one thing is for sure, that radical CI, whatever forms of artificial intelligence it uses, radical CI will be orders of magnitude smarter than those forms. And as such, radical CI will be able to control those forms, at least insofar as they're deployed within radical CI itself. Now, if there's some rogue form of AI that's out there causing a bunch of damage that's outside the realm of radical CI, I still posit that radical CI will be orders of magnitude smarter than that, because radical CI will incorporate within itself, within its own ICT platforms, all those forms of AI which are both controllable and seeking to maximize the total intelligence of the radical CI. The radical collective intelligence quotient, or the RCIQ, as we've talked about it in previous videos. So that's why, like I said earlier, however smart AI gets, it's kind of a moot point. Radical CI will be orders of magnitude smarter and therefore capable, far beyond capable of controlling the forms of AI and making sure that they don't get out of control, much less destructive.
Well, its primary purpose, I'm not a coder, obviously, but it's going to be told and built, and the pathways that code will be its path on a map to serve us so we can solve these problems. And it's going to start paving its own paths as it gets more and more data. But its ultimate goal, if you will, is to get solutions in our hands. And if there's a artificial intelligence malicious sent out by somebody, some bot somewhere in some country, it's going to catch it and destroy it, because that gets in the way of the mission that we gave it.
Yeah,
that's its job, is to get rid of that burr off my sock.
Right.
Because we're literally going to be making products to protect the earth, making solar. I mean, we're going to be busy.
Yeah.
Humans are going to be busy.
Yeah.
And the radical collective intelligence has to be watching like a lighthouse at all times, all everywhere. That's why we're making it, because we have to sleep.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
And its job is to, first do no harm. Don't let anything bad in, and get to work.
Yeah. That's why I think the real interesting conversation is not so much envisioning, all the bad things that could happen with AI. Look, whatever bad stuff is going to happen with AI is going to happen whether or not we do radical CI.
Yeah.
Right. And secondly, let's first, complete the envisioning of the good things that radical CI can do, including controlling bad forms of AI. That's the interesting conversation. Then once we envision that a bit, then may really make sense to say, okay, now that we've really got a lock on what forms of AI we're seeking to include, then we can have the conversations about, all right, how do we, keep those under control, for lack of better words, right? So I think the conversation to have right now is about radical CI itself.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't have that, if we never have that conversation, it's a moot point. So let's have that conversation, and then as that progresses and we actually talk about real forms of AI that are going to be included therein, then we can talk about safeguards for those. Is that fair, Adam?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, ask you a question about that and how it works. And I've been making another video, and in there I explain how it works, kind of in my interpretation. And so, say you got countries all over the world, and say there's a country that has a question for teeth cleaning training, I called it. So that the city or whatever goes to radical collective intelligence and says, okay, I want you to develop the best teeth cleaning training methods I can get. I want to see what my options are. So radical or collective intelligence puts together a team, and that team works with your artificial intelligence. So there you have your human intelligence and your artificial intelligence working together. And then the artificial intelligence helps the human intelligence to create these set of options. So the team comes up with, say, 4 viable options that work. So then, the world's really big. So that's like one city or one locality that has this topic run in radical collective intelligence. Well, then say 25 or 24, we'll say 24 more localities call up radical collective intelligence. Say, okay, we want the same thing. We want teeth cleaning training. So 25 more topics are put together, topic teams are put together, and it's analyzed 25 or 24 more times for a total of 25. And each time it's analyzed, the group comes up with 4 options. So the collective intelligence then looks at that as 100 viable answers to the same question, because you got 4 options produced by 25 teams. And then you say, well, half of them, 50% of them are common to each other. And then the computer is able to put other variables in there. And so then all of a sudden it's got enough now, the artificial intelligence has enough information there that it can write a standard operating procedure list. Now, any country or any city in the whole world, I mean, there would be millions of them, could come there and could come to collective intelligence and say, well, we want our options for teeth cleaning training. And so they would plug that in, and instead of the collective intelligence having to do any more, run any more topic teams, the collective intelligence just spits out a list that whatever locality puts it in, they put in their parameters. Well, they live next to the sea, or they have so many population, and they put in their parameters. And then the collective intelligence looks at those parameters and gives them the list of the best options. So in that way, that's how I see collective intelligence kind of leading the way, because there might be millions and millions of localities submitting the very same question.
Yeah.
Yet the collective intelligence, all it has to do is analyze it enough times to get those, to get the calculations to work, to find the commonalities and to, fit it all together. And then it comes up with standard operating procedures that are manipulable, can be augmented for each locality. Is that kind of right?
It's really spot on, because what you're describing is it's going to learn. The more information we give it and request from it, it's going to learn our patterns, and it's going to always come up with the best practice for those necessary standing operating procedures for your problem. It'll always give you best practices first. And if best practices won't work because of the condition of the earth, if that's the thing, then we have to go to a different plan. But if best practices works for something like teeth cleaning, which is universally pretty much done the same everywhere, but there's best practices, it'll provide you that, and it won't have to relearn that because we're always have the same teeth. But it'll be nimble enough to adapt to things like accelerated climate change. So, no, please.
Yeah. Well, look, here's the thing. Yes, there are best practices for teeth cleaning training. But, just consider that different parts of the world have different diets, different genetics, different materials that are available, right?
Absolutely.
Some part of the world may have this type of bark that's good for cleaning teeth. Another is an industrialized nation where you can buy dental floss. All right. In that case, what's the best kind of dental floss?
Best practices per location.
Per location.
For circumstances.
Exactly. Well, and if someone says, well, the answer is dental floss, right? Well, what's that dental floss made out of? Well, it's made out of,
Teflon, right?
nylon and polyester and, things that are harmful to the environment. And you're pulling out, yards and yards and yards of it all the time. Right. Hey, well, is there a more holistic way?
Is there hemp strands or?
Yeah, maybe hemp, dental floss.
Anything, a piece of wool is better.
Well, Anyway, whatever. I mean, but you know, so these are among the best practices which will emerge. But then just consider this: imagine that in addition to, you know, giving you a list of best practices with some sort of ranking according to, you know, your geography and climate and all these other factors or parameters, as you've mentioned, Adam. In addition to that, the collective intelligence will say, look, if you really want to nail this, you know, this is the kind of team that we need to put together. And in fact, we're happy to put out the signal to those members of that local community, plus dental experts, no matter wherever they are, London, New York, Tokyo. This is the team that needs to be brought together in order to determine the best teeth cleaning practices for your specific location. And then that leads us to another question. All right. So now these 7 different people are being pinged to work on teeth cleaning practices. Is that the highest and best use of their time? There may be other projects which are in the works, which demand their attention, like, for example, geoshading. So what's a higher priority, geoshading or, you know, teeth cleaning training, right?
It has to rank. It's like we have to reserve our energy. It has to rank its ability to be efficient. It has to, like he said, make decisions about ranking these things for us.
Yeah.
Because without that, we just have ideas and we don't know which is the best way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you know, part of the challenge and opportunity of Radical CI is that it help us determine what the priorities are, what is most urgent, what kind of solution do we be working on first, second, and third. And, you know, ultimately to do that most effectively, it's going to need a very highly evolved global holistic modeling and optimization capability to basically run a bunch of different what if scenarios and say, look, the highest priority thing is developing fusion energy, because if you develop fusion energy as a source, essentially free energy, you'll be able to power all these, plants to sequester carbon. You'll be able to, you know, manufacture all the thin film reflective materials that you need to cool the earth, as well as, you know, manufacture the aluminum structures that are required to support them, and, you know, whatever, right? So, you know, it might say, look, just put all your best minds on fusion energy, right? Okay, and then let's suppose there's 100,000 people cranking away on fusion energy with all the resources they need, lab resources, technical resources, etc., and everyone knows to prioritize fusion energy. Then the question becomes, okay, what about the rest of us, right? Other than those 100,000 people who are working on fusion energy, what do we do? Well, priority number 2 is geoshading, right? How the heck are we going to cool the planet?
So those people are called and pinged,
yeah,
and they get on that.
Exactly.
And then, you know, food production, that's going to be close to the top.
Yeah. So
we need the agronomists and farmers and the Amish and anybody that can grow a plant, that can pull a weed, from everybody, from the agronomists down. And they got to get on that right away. And then it's just going to keep going.
Right. And it's going to be this dynamic process, this dialectic between the various layers of AI that are part of the Radical CI platform and the people who are participating in the solutionaries in the Radical CI community. There will be this dialectic between those two groups to determine, you know, who needs to be in which conversation.
Which is the beauty of it's the magic of this, because it's just making the maximum use efficiency of people when they're together. Meet here. You people that have an interest in this, meet here. Here's the topic. What's the solution? So yeah, it's giving us. It's going to put the people in the right rooms.
Exactly. To prioritize those solutions.
You don't want the muffler guy, the welder, in the room with the fish culture guy, unless they're making the tank. Otherwise, he's got to talk about structural integrity of buildings and arcologies.
Exactly.
So we got to get the people in the right rooms.
That's it. Get the people in the right rooms and prioritize the rooms, right? So that if a person says, well, this person could go into any of these 8 rooms and make valuable contributions. Well, which of those rooms has the highest priority? Like we were talking about, fusion energy.
Get in that room. Bring your knowledge to that room.
Exactly.
And even if you're not in the room, you should be able to click on it and watch them working.
Exactly.
And submit it and submit. Hey, I just thought I'm just so and so, but I thought of this.
Yeah.
And it shoots across the desk.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, fresh idea.
Yeah.
You know, because there's going to be value in that, and just like what I'm doing here. I'm not a computer guy, but I'm paying attention to it. And once in a while, I have a neuron fire, and it's interesting, and it adds a little bit. Okay, so I can go to a lot of meetings, and everybody can go to a lot of meetings that they're not even interested in, but they're free time, and they do see that it's working. So I'm going to go look at, is there any way we can use kites for energy? Are they talking about making kites like windmills of kites? Never heard of it. I'm going to watch that with those guys, because who knows what they're going to come up with?
Yeah.
Who knows what anybody could add? Anybody could add it.
Right. And what's fascinating there is as these conversations progress and develop all throughout the toposphere, the context of all the different topics organized into taxonomies, as all these different conversations happen throughout the toposphere, the AI, various layers of AI are transcribing, indexing, mapping what is being said. And so, for example, if a question comes up, even in real time, like right now in this conversation that we're having right now, that the AI thinks it knows the answer to from some other conversation that happened 17 months ago on a different mix of topics, it can go, bloop, is the answer you're looking for this? And then we'd say, oh, goodness, good guess, but no, not really. That's close, but not exactly. Or, you know what, that's so far off the mark. How on earth did you come up with that? And then the AI takes that as feedback.
Yes.
Wow, I was correlating based on just keywords alone. But
there was a different conversation, same words.
Yeah. Anyway, so the bottom line, the AI will be able to learn from that process, right?
Yeah.
And, of that feedback. See, it's a dialectic. It's a dialogue. Hey, you should come to this meeting, but I'm not interested in that. I'm more interested in this. Well, they need you there too, so but ultimately, I have the freedom of choice, right? What do you see?
The spider's making a cover on your drink.
Oh, okay, thank you. Anyway, so I'll drink to that. Whoa, you ever had a spider go down your throat?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Anyway, so we what are the lessons here? What's really interesting to glean from this? It's a dialectic between the people and the AI to determine
it's the ultimate dance.
It's the ultimate dance. Yeah.
She's our date.
It's the ultimate. Well, it's a contra dance because, you'll spend a few minutes in this room, a couple hours in that other room,
right.
The next week in this room,
right.
30 seconds in this other room.
Right.
Oh, I'm not the guy you need to talk to, but you know who you should talk to? It's Professor Heinrich. You got to talk to that gentleman there. Boom. That's it.
Yep.
Right. And so, we're going to be like bumblebees, all going from flower to flower. There's a bunch of bumblebees on each flower. Each flower is a growing conversation. Right. And the bumblebees go from flower to flower. And okay, Michael just mentioned that he's got to go run an errand, and hopefully we'll see him back on. But I think that's a good metaphor, right? The flowers and the bumblebees. Pick whatever metaphor, but each individual human is going to be going from conversation to conversation.
Yeah.
Right. And the AI is going to be listening the whole time and determining which conversations are really progressing and which are getting stalled. And the ones that are getting stalled, why are they getting stalled?
Right.
And when they get unstalled, why is it they get unstalled? Well, because these two people joined.
Right.
Well, what did they bring to the table? Well, run your pattern matching algorithms and find out. Right. Oh, I know. We need a Libra in every one of these conversations on geoshading.
Right.
Why do you need a Libra? Who cares? The point is that you need a Libra for them to move forward.
I got to catch the spider.
Sure. Oh, wow. Isn't it just beautiful?
It's fantastic.
One of the things I've been thinking of, is, we're being told the collapse is coming, right? And pretty much we all know it. And the city sends out pamphlets to tell you what to do, if the power goes out. Maybe some cities will tell you what to do if a hurricane comes or a tornado. But governments aren't funded to give plans for collapse, because collapse could come in so many different forms. I mean, it's just impossible to plan for it. So we don't have plans for collapse. so the Road to Life plan, and that I want to try and start developing that plan for collapse. I mean, what happens when the government's no longer there? What are we all going to do? You know,
I've got a better plan for collapse.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, Adam. I just want you to know I've got a good one.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just that, you know, I think that in the Road to Life plan, I think we need to have some kind of a plan, because if the collapse comes and, you know, we don't have a plan, then we're just going to run around like crazy. And not having a plan is essentially telling us that our life is over. If we don't have a plan, we're saying, well, when the collapse comes, I guess we're done then. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. And so I think that collective intelligence radical collective intelligence can definitely help us there.
I'd like to propose the best possible plan for collapse. And but let me set the table first. You guys have both seen, and many of our viewers have seen, the video on brainstorming, right? Just type into Google brainstorming video Harvard, and it's published on the Harvard Business Review. Now, do you remember that in the real life example of removing ice from power lines, there was one of those solutions that was not, there was one of those ways that was not like the others, right? One of those ways was not like the others. You remember which one that was? It was the way that said
sound.
No.
Oh.
It was the way that said prevent the ice from forming in the first place.
Right.
Right. So the best way, now I've set the table. So the best way to prevent, the best way to deal with collapse is to prevent it from happening in the first place. And the best way to prevent collapse from happening in the first place is to rally the tech sector around radical collective intelligence, radical CI, build out the platforms, sound the message, if not the alarm, to humanity to join the radical CI, and we make this actually happen. And then we develop all of the programs, all of the solutions that we need, from community cafes to arcologies to geoshading to cleaning up the oceans, right? To on and on and on and on. All the solutions that we need to prevent collapse from happening in the first place. Right? Now, what better plan could there be for dealing with collapse than that? Prevent it from happening in the first place. Because once collapse happens, by definition, you're kind of between a rock and a hard place. Right? Collapse happens. What do we do? You know?
Well, it's more likely than not, in my view, that if we don't prevent it, we'll keep lurching to the edge at a relatively steady but comfortable pace, like we're doing now, and then very close to the edge, it'll completely drop, and the bad actors that want to be the warlords are going to disarm. They're going to arm the nukes. They're going to activate them. Things are going to happen. They're going to poison rivers. People are going to be forced into tribes. And if the habitat or the atmosphere supports it, then we start over as tribal people, warlording our way back to civilization, or more likely than that, total collapse and no growth of plants. And, you know, within a year, all life is gone, at least all higher forms of life.
Yeah, okay. Well, this what you're saying, Jamie, is what everybody says, you know. But we have a powerful tool with collective intelligence, radical collective intelligence. So we can figure out how to do things like refreeze the Arctic, like develop an endless supply of clean energy. There are things we can do. We can change the way we live. We don't have to accept this end.
So those are all the preventatives.
Yeah.
Each one of those
Right.
is a preventative step.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that we may have to reach the end before mankind will wake up.
You're right about that.
And when we reach the end, it may be the only moment in the history of man when everybody will come together. But they won't come together unless we have a place for them to go and a plan for them to act on. So, like the first thing, well, anyway, that's what I'm working on.
That's what we're all working on, is a
yes.
And to build a common plan, which is constantly in evolution. So right now, what we have is essentially a meta plan, right? Yep. A plan to build the meta solution, which will in turn generate the full detailed plan, which I understand is consistent with your Road to Life plan, because yours calls for radical collective intelligence to help us build out all the details of the plan. I think you've provided a very beautiful kind of rough overview, right? Not rough, that's not the right word. I would say high level overview. Let's put it that way. A high level overview of a Road to Life plan. And it relies on collective intelligence to fill in the details, including, I would say, the on-ramp onto that Road to Life plan, right? The practical on-ramp. How do we take the off-ramp from the highway to hell and get on the on-ramp to the road to life? So the meta plan that we're working on and that we're going to implement starting beginning of next week, the Tuesday after Labor Day, September 4th, on the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, at Northeast 40th and 156 Northeast. Come join us. Is going to be that will be the Paul Revere cry that collapse is coming. Abrupt climate change and attendant collapse is coming, and we need to come together to build the goose that will lay the golden eggs of all the solutions that we need to stop it from happening, to stop runaway climate change in its tracks, and to prevent the collapse of civilization. Because if we have the collapse of civilization, we lose global dimming. What's the net cooling effect of global dimming? Is it like 1.5 degrees C? I forget the number, but it's a really substantial temperature bump that we would experience if we lose the global dimming of all the aerosols and particles and everything that we're spewing into the atmosphere. Not that I'm in favor of spewing those, but the reality is that spewing those provides temporary relief from what would otherwise be much more severe heating of the planet, right? The global dimming effect. And so we need a non-collapse off-ramp from the highway to hell, because if we have collapse, that could accelerate our slide down the highway to hell.
Yeah.
So that's the meta plan. The plan doesn't, the detailed plan does not exist. And in fact, the shovel-ready plan does not exist. But a shovel-ready plan a shovel-ready meta plan does exist, and we know because we've been building the shovels, and we're gonna break ground on Tuesday, September 4th, at the intersection of Northeast 40th and 156 Northeast, pretty much the heart of the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington.
Hey, Jamin.
Yes, sir.
Have you tested RCI yet?
Well, we're testing it right now, in fact. See, because we're using some of the key platforms of RCI, recorded and broadcast video conferences. We're using that right now. And we're building out the conversational domain and slowly putting that to the test. And we've been, anyway, so the bottom line is, yes, we're testing it, and we're testing it right now as we speak. You're part of the test.
I wonder if you fed a whole bunch of variables into it, and you knew what the answer was.
Yeah.
And then just see what the computer comes up with. with the same variables.
That raises, well, it's not what the computer comes up with. It's what the collective and what the radical CI, the radical collective intelligence, comes up with,
Right.
which is part computer and part human. Right? It's a mashup of human and computer. And right now, the human part of RCI is much stronger than the computer part. There's a lot of the parts of the computer part that we need to build out still, just like there's a lot of parts of the human part that we need to build out still. This is just the the early stages of what's going to be the age of collective intelligence.
Well, when will you be able to start answering real questions? I mean, well,
give me an example of a real question.
How do we counteract global dimming?
Okay, so the beginning of an answer. So that's a real question. How do we counteract global dimming? In other words, if we lose global dimming, what do we replace it with? Okay.
Yeah.
So the beginning of an answer, if it were up to me, if it was just me and there was no radical collective intelligence, I would say, well, we need to counteract the loss of global dimming with refreezing the Arctic and myriad forms of geoshading, right? Whether it's thin film reflective materials, whether it's spraying seawater up into the atmosphere to create clouds artificially, et cetera, but increase the reflectivity of planet Earth, reflecting more and more sunlight back into space. Refreezing the Arctic is one way of achieving that. And so between refreezing the Arctic and other forms of geoshading, that's the beginning of an answer. Now, radical collective intelligence will then take that beginning of an answer and break it into more specific ways of achieving, more reflectivity, basically, of sunlight back into space. And then some of those ways will then branch out into various different subways and sub-subways and so on. And at this point, I simply refer people to the brainstorming video. Just Google brainstorming video Harvard and watch that 4-minute video, because it shows the methodology. So from the initial goal of cooling the planet, right? That's what the goal is, cooling the planet. That's ultimately what any of these solutions to counteract the loss of global dimming is basically, what do we do to cool the planet? It's synonymous within a certain range. And that's where the brainstorming methodology, but lubricated by artificial intelligence, lubricated by the entire Radical CI platform and community swarming around that question and other critical questions, will generate the best possible answers, the best possible solutions. Did I answer your question?
Well, not really. I mean, so collective intelligence, you have artificial intelligence, and then you have the team, which is the human intelligence. And so the artificial intelligence is going to listen to the conversations and compare it to other conversations and stuff. But what about, feeding in the manuals, the patents, the public coming in and putting in their ideas? How is all those? Are those things ready to go in yet, or how far away will it be for other things to be plugged into the radical collective intelligence, other than just conversations?
I think you're talking about, if I hear you correctly, the question is, when will we start feeding it? When are we taking actual information and putting it in the platform? That's the question.
So right now we don't have a systematic programmatic way of feeding, patents, for example, into Radical CI. There are two ways that patents can get in there. One is that one might copy the text of a patent and paste it onto a conversation description within Radical CI. I think you're referring to the Radish platform specifically, which is one implementation of Radical CI, the only one we know of to date. And we hope that there will be many, many more very, very soon. But anyway, so one way is to in Radish is to paste it into the conversational domain, upload it. Another is to have a recorded video conference on the topic of that patent, in which it's posted and it's discussed and it's analyzed, for example. But I think, one of the more advanced scenarios that you're talking about is, imagine that the global holistic modeling capability within Radical CI has access to all the patents that have ever been filed, right? And it could then play with different combinations of those patents, just like it could play with different combinations of programs, projects, solutions, right? Patents are solutions, or they're components to solutions that use them, right? So I think that's where your question, I think, is where it's going. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And those are parts of the Radical CI platform that need to be developed yet. Most of the Radical CI platform is yet to be developed, and so really the parts that are under active development right now are mainly within the conversational domain, and to a lesser extent the envisioning. Well, actually, not to a lesser extent. We're doing quite a bit of this these days. The envisioning,
yeah,
and high level specification of the overall platforms, plural, that we'll need. And we're doing a lot of that now in preparation for the tech sector jumping in and saying, okay, let's talk about which parts,
Can I say something here?
Sure.
So you turned me on to a really good reference, a guy that really has helped me quite a bit. And, so I asked him a question, and he not only answers the question, he sends me back an email with a couple pages long of links. I don't have time to go through all of it.
Right.
So if I was going to become an expert, doctors, PhDs are experts, and it takes them their whole lives, quite a bit of school to become an expert.
Usually only on one topic.
Right.
Often only on
but collective intelligence could be an expert on everything eventually, right?
Exactly. That's the whole vision of it. That's exactly the vision. That collective intelligence becomes the expert at everything.
So, would it be very far of a jump for your software to go from recording conversations to absorbing those links? So people could just, like you could have you have your Radical Collective Intelligence set up with a whole bunch of different rooms, and people go visit there and they say, well, I know information about that room or that topic, and I can contribute to that. And other people go to other topics, and pretty soon you've got those topics populated with all kinds of information.
Yeah. Imagine that each conversation or series of conversations has a memory hole associated with it, and people can dump whatever information into that memory hole that they want, and then the appropriate mix of layers of AI, bots, and other pieces.
We'll go to work on it.
We'll go to work on it. We're on digesting it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Just like
so you can use that what the capability you have right now to learn how to do the rest of it.
Well, not the capability that we have right now with the platform, but the capability that we have to assemble the teams that need to be assembled to build that out. We have that capability right now, and we're going to put that capability to use starting on Tuesday, September 4th in Redmond, Washington, on the Microsoft campus. Rallying the tech sector to come together. See, we need a bunch more coders, basically.
Yeah.
Coders, program managers, product managers, designers, visionaries, evangelists. We need all kinds of, lots of areas of expertise to build out all the platforms that we need to have a really solid V1 of radical CI. It's that simple. So that's why, you know, we're putting our focus on communicating to the world through conversations such as these and many others, much more concise ones. This is sort of an experimental conversation, frankly. So we don't, you know, we don't expect these really long format recorded conversations to necessarily be the viral vector. It's kind of hard to imagine such a video as this going viral. But other more concise videos and series thereof are going to help us very much in bringing together the kind of seed community that we need to get to critical mass in terms of putting together the platforms that we need to make this radical CI a reality.
It's interesting. If it's recording conversations, could it listen to YouTube videos and record those conversations or those?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, once the you see, there's, you know, again, there's two parts of radical CI. There's the people, and then there's the platform. So the people, you know, watch videos, right? You know, we sit there and we watch these videos, and we learn from them, and we take notes and whatnot. The AI, just like Cookie Monster, just consumes them and transcribes them, indexes them, maps them, and creates this massive database. Right?
What does it do with the links that are provided?
Yeah, well, those links are fields in the database. And so, for example, if the database says, oh, you want to find, you know, conversations that talk about rutabagas, oh, okay, fine. There are 17 conversations that talk about rutabagas. Here's the, you know, the record for each. Here's the 17 records for each of those. There is one field that's common to all 17 of those records. That's the field link to that conversation. So that's what it uses it for. So anyone who wants to either watch the video, whether it's a human, a bot, or other form of AI, there's the link.
This is all good.
It is really good. I mean, look, we're envisioning and mapping out a form of intelligence that's orders of magnitude stronger than any form of intelligence witnessed on the face of the earth, including Jamie's brain, right? You know, we're going to have a form of intelligence. It's going to be millions or billions of times more powerful than your brain. Be. Yeah, exactly. It better be.
If we're going to rely on what I got going on, we may as well cut the video now. But yeah, that's the whole thing, man. It's going to be all heads leaning in the same direction, all the data in all heads, and all the data that have been created, all of it.
Yeah.
On location to produce solutions.
Yeah.
Well, in the Road to Life plan, I look at building this plan for the collapse. And so part of that plan is, well, what are people going to do to eat? You know, where are they going to go to sleep and escape the heat? You know, where are they going to get their water? And so it sets up, it's what I want to do is get beyond Radish and set up some topic rooms and have people start populating those topic rooms with answers. And I don't know if the Radical Collective Intelligence Engine will be ready yet or not, but I could set up the rooms and then have people start populating them. And it's not like the Road to Life plan is the only solution. I'm not God or anything. You know, I spent a lot of time thinking about this and looking into it a lot, and I've done a lot of research, and so I put a lot of effort into it. and nobody else is. And I look out on the internet and I don't see any other comprehensive plans out there for a way out. But that doesn't mean there shouldn't be. And you know, and I would be totally open to viewing another one. And I think they should all be put up, you know, and looked at together. So anybody else that has a plan for a way out, you know, join, and then, you know, have them all looked at together. And I think collective intelligence is the group that should be looking at it. And so another thing about collapse is we should not only be planning for it, but we're going to have a different set of government. It's going to have to be a whole different way of living on the earth, totally different than what we live in now. And that's the way we have to start thinking. It's not going to be the same, but we will survive. And the next generation will have something to look forward to. That's the plan I'm putting out there. So we need some hope, and the physical aspects of being able to, you know, refreeze the Arctic, and fight this abrupt climate change. Those are really important physical aspects. And we need to show people that we can do this. We can physically do this. What's stopping us from doing it? Well, the system we live in today is stopping us from doing it. And the first question that comes up is, well, how much is it going to cost? You know, that, like I said, when the policeman has an emergency, he doesn't go rent a car. He commandeers a car. And so, you know, when the collapse comes, it's going to be a whole different world. And anyway, I would love to be able to get on Radish and build these rooms and have people come there and you know, beta test your radical collective intelligence, maybe.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Adam. Let's get you set up on Radish so that you can do exactly that. Right now, we have an application process that will be live on the website on radish.org next week. And so I think it'll be very valuable for you to go through that process, and then I'm quite confident you'll come out the other side as a full-fledged member of Radish, and you'll be able to create those rooms on Radish. So I look forward to that starting next week. And you know, as we think about, you know, what it's going to take to, you know, you say, like, when you talk about, you know, geoshading and ways of cooling the planet, you say the first question is, well, how much will it cost? That's not the first question that comes up. The first question that comes up is, huh? Right? People still don't know that abrupt climate change is here, right? And the extent to which it's threatening all of us. People are oblivious. And so part of the logic of the action that we're going to be taking in public this next week, starting on September 4th, is alerting the public of what's going on and rallying the tech sector to get involved. Look, for the tech sector to get involved in the race for solutions to abrupt climate change, it has to acknowledge that abrupt climate change exists. And that will be news. This is an emperor's new clothes moment. Everyone knows that the emperor is naked, but no one is acknowledging it publicly. This will force the hand of the tech sector to acknowledge it publicly. It's that simple. Either they acknowledge it publicly, or they keep on saying, oh, no, the emperor has beautiful clothes, right? Which is it, tech sector? So that's the question that we're going to force an answer to next week.
Yeah.
Now, I'd like to propose that we take a little intermission, a little break, so that we can give our minds and mouths a little rest and get a little food and whatnot. Are you guys? Would you guys be up for that?
Yeah.
All right. How long a break shall we take?
30 minutes.
30. That makes sense. That sounds good to me. Adam, would that work for you?
Yeah, it'll work for me. I'm surprised you want to keep on going, but
all right. It's
yes.
9:11 right now. Why don't we plan on reconvening at 9:40, just to give it a round number?
Yeah.
9:40. Okay. So at 9:40 p.m. Pacific time, we'll continue. In the meantime, why don't we just mute our microphones and mute our cameras? That way we just have, that way people watching this video can just skip ahead half an hour.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mute our microphones, mute our cameras, and then when you see unmuted microphones and unmuted cameras, we're back on. Sound good?
Okay.
All right, Adam. See you at 9:40, and everyone watching, see you at 9:40 p.m. Pacific time. We'll continue then. Look forward to seeing you. Hello again, Adam and everyone. Well, there's so much to say about this, but the bottom line is that the tech industry has a lot of really smart people in it. So as we rally the tech sector to really look at this, I think word will spread. There are techies who are very smart and very awake, and they've got a pretty good idea what's going on, and they've got ways of communicating with each other. I think that's an understatement.
Yeah.
They wrote the ways to communicate with each other.
They're going to love this concept.
Yeah, I mean, because they're already they've already built much of the platforms, most of the platforms which are in use as part of radical collective intelligence today, right? In the primitive form in which it exists, right?
And in the primitive form that it currently exists is tremendously better than what existed 10 years ago. And it's still very juvenile.
Exactly.
But yet look how it's impacted all of our lives and made everything so much better and so much easier. I mean, what I've learned, just for example, is if you Google something and if you speak to Google, if you pose the question the wrong way, it will be silent and give you a list. If you pose the question in the best form, it talks back to you. Test that yourselves. Talk to Google and ask it a question. How many moons are around Jupiter? And if it talks to you, that's the way to ask the question. If you say, does Jupiter have moons? It may not respond, but it will give you data points.
Yeah.
But it only talks to you when you give it the best possible version of yourself. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
I want you to check it out later.
Okay.
That's an example of how things have gotten so advanced in my lifetime. I was born in 1964. I knew everyone's phone number. Everybody in my family, when I was 4, 5, 6, knew them all. Garfield 12323. Okay, and now we have servants. We have AI that keeps that for us. We've stopped using that part of our brain as a storage bin. Now it's free to do other things, and so it's exponentially rolling quicker. And it's still really at the very baseline. Like if this was any kind of chart, we would be just one notch above zero in where we're going, technology-wise.
Yeah, the best is yet to be when it comes to collective intelligence supported by information and communication technology. It's like all the Lego blocks are there. We just need to assemble them in the right way, including bringing this to the attention of all the techies in the world. The fact that there's a rallying cry put out to the techies to help save life on Earth with tremendous urgency. And how? And, well, read on.
Well, right? They've never been called. No one's ever said, we want to harness all of you.
Yeah.
Microsoft says you can work here for this much money. Amazon says this.
Yeah.
Samsung says this. And, hundreds of thousands of companies want individualized and the team. But they haven't all been said, come to the light.
Yeah.
Come to the light. All of you. And that's going to be compelling.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, these are inquiring minds that can't resist. If you pose this question, are you aware of this problem? Go to Radish. They're not going to not go. They have to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's it. And this is a crucial part of the strategy, because until you get that critical mass of really smart, productive people on it who are just,
right, standing at attention.
Oh my goodness. Until we put it to that test, it remains, largely a slow building concept with tremendous promise. But we just don't have time for slow building.
Well, right, we don't have time. It won't get built if we rely on one person a day. It won't. We won't make it. We're gonna burn up before that.
Yeah. So that's why, hence our invitation to the tech sector, which is another public video on this channel, my channel, our channel. So please check out the two invitations to the tech sector in previously released videos. What could possibly be more compelling? Saving life on Earth. And what more powerful meta solution than radical collective intelligence? If someone has a more powerful meta solution, I'm all ears. We're all ears. What you got?
There's no doubt.
Right?
No,
So,
you've nailed it. And this team has nailed the solution to the problems or invent new solutions, because we have everything here uncollated, not connected, discombobulated. So it is proof, prima facie evidence, that at this rate we are doing nothing. We have to create a platform that will be different and above everything that's ever existed, because everything that's ever existed currently exists, and we're going off the cliff.
yeah.
We have the tools to build a treehouse to fix this.
Yeah, exactly. Adam, welcome back. We've been chatting away here the last few minutes since 9:40. Jump in anytime.
Okay.
And we were simply making the point that we have the tools to build radical CI. What is there any platform which could possibly be more powerful than that to generate the solutions that we need? And all the connective tissue between all the solutions, the order of implementation, all the detailed step-by-step path to get us towards full implementation. Everything, the whole enchilada, right? What could possibly be more effective to generating this, to borrow your term, the road to life plan?
Yes.
Well, so I've been making another video, and I've sent you copies of it because, but I just sent you the latest one actually. But I talk about collective intelligence in it. I describe my understanding of collective intelligence, and so I didn't want to really put it out there without you looking at it. So yeah, I think collective intelligence. I lost my train of thought here for a second. I was going somewhere. Let me come back to it. I'll think of it there in a second.
Well, and take a look at what we're doing, okay? What we're doing right now is we're having a global conversation available to everybody who has access to the internet. And that's not the entire community, but it's a big amount that we can, and we can talk and exchange ideas, have disagreements, agreements, victories, heated discussions. But the thing about it is, we still need to be looking at each other's face, because we are primates, and that's how we assess information and danger.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the thumbed primates that created this platform and form and ability and capacity, which is incredible, stunningly incredible that we can do this.
Yeah.
And this is like not even near the first step what RCI is going to do. But
exactly.
Just look at this, everybody. Yeah. Just look at your phone. Look, you can call anybody in the world from your phone for no money and see their face and talk for an hour for no money. Say that to yourself out loud. It's incredible. And this is barely scratching the surface of what we're going to be creating.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
So this works with no money. You have to buy a computer. You have to have a network. You have to have people servicing the network. You have to have towers. But the bottom line is you can get the service and all those people can be employed and you can still provide the service for free.
Yeah.
And it's being done.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, the business model exists.
Yeah.
This is it.
Yeah. Plus many other platforms that we're building out and we need to accelerate the build out of. This is the Manhattan.
That's the key, man.
This is the Manhattan project of our time.
So requires the tech sector to step into their role here. The role exists, and we've now found who belongs in it.
Yeah. Yep. It's the tech sector. The tech sector is chock full of smart people, really smart people who are really connected, really plugged in, and therefore have a much higher probability of knowing what the heck is going on in terms of abrupt climate change, destruction of the biosphere, and the overall trajectory of planet Earth and life on Earth. The tech sector, you are the ones, to speak directly to you with the world listening, you are the ones who will make the difference here. You're the ones who will build out or will not build out the platforms needed for radical collective intelligence to get to the root of our problems.
Even if the government took the lead, okay? Let's say the United States government tomorrow opens their doors for business on a Saturday and says, Eureka, this is a serious problem. We're going to challenge it. Who are they going to hire? They're going to bring the army into it? Are they going to hire college students? They're going to go to the tech sector. So we're circumventing because the government's not coming to ask. They've got their head in the sand like everybody else. But if anybody else, any other entity was trying to do this, the answer would be in tech, regardless of who's trying to do this.
Excuse me. Yep. Exactly.
Okay, I got my thought here. So the road, what I'd like to do with the Road to Life plan is build it in virtual reality. So see, the Road to Life plan is another form of government. It means it's a different way of governing ourselves. And collective intelligence in the Road to Life plan is like the Supreme Court. I mean, it's where the major decisions are made by vote, but collective intelligence comes up with all the solutions. So all those government decisions and stuff can be made through collective intelligence, kind of. I mean, the important ones and stuff. But I want to emphasize that I'm not trying to overthrow the government. This is a plan built in virtual reality that takes effect when the government throws in the towel. I mean, the government's not giving us any plans. So what do? Well, if we do, like you guys said, which everybody says, the thing is that, so what it's saying is that if a collapse comes, we're done. And we shouldn't be thinking in that way right now. We should be thinking the other way, how we can get out of it. And putting all these thoughts together, that's what we're doing. I mean, that's what we're doing right here, the three of us. We're brainstorming. So my point was, I want to build it in virtual reality. And I want to start answering the questions, I want people to start bringing the information in there. And I can't read all the information. I can't watch all the videos. And so it's hard you'd have to put like teams on different things. So you'd have to like have different groups, like how to counteract global dimming, how to refreeze the Arctic, how to come up with an energy supply, how to turn the generators on the nuclear power plants after all the power goes out, what to do about them, how to shut them down. But even when they shut down, they still have to have the cooling rods cleaned. They're cooled. I mean, the spent fuel rods cooled. Those pumps can't ever shut down. So there's things that we have to do, and all those contingencies need to be covered in the plan for when the collapse happens. I can't build this plan for myself. All I've been doing is like putting a framework together. You know, we have to bring the infrastructure up. We have to figure out how we're going to eat. You know, all these different steps that we have to do. What we're going to do with transportation. How are we going to reduce? You know, they're saying we need to reduce our carbon footprint, right? Well, you know, if you go by the economy way, you know, they're talking, well, man, we're going to reduce our carbon footprint by 25% by the year 2050. Well, big deal. You know, the real fact is we need to reduce our carbon footprint like 100%. But if we, you know, in money and follow this plan that I'm on, we can reduce by 70%, like within a couple weeks. I mean, this is where we're at. I'll shut.
Well, in order to, you know, what you said is exactly right. There's nothing to do with overthrowing the government here. This is, see, the thing is we're trying to create the off-ramp for everybody, government included. We need all parts of society to get this to turn around. And while we're doing that, we have to be coming up with your road to life plan for every facet of society, including how does government get renegotiated so it serves the good of the new way, because every component we currently have will currently need, except waste, greed, envy, those sorts of things are going to have to be bred out eventually. You know, people have to just start being kind, and eventually kindness will be the mode of operandi. But the off-ramp is for all. The government's coming with us. They're evolving with us. It's the only way.
And a couple of things I want to point out. The difference between responsible action with radical CI. The difference between responsible action with radical CI and prior to collapse and not, the difference is simply collapse versus not collapse. Bring in radical CI in time and we can avert collapse. Because if we don't, in a world with collapse, you have immediately you have two things. Loss of capacity for what? Loss of capacity for anything, right? Less power, less water, less food.
Everything diminishes immediately.
Okay. So you have far less, you have a collapse in capacity to do anything. And you have a massive boost given to accelerated exponential climate change. It gets a huge shot in the arm with the loss of global dimming. So it's like, you know, a boxer just getting smashed in the face twice by Muhammad Ali with the hardest hits he can throw, right? It's not a pretty picture. That's what happens to us with collapse. So the imperative is to prevent collapse from ever happening in the first place. And what's the best way to do that? Spread the word that we are rallying the tech sector. You know, the headline is former Microsoft executive rallies the tech sector to join the race for solutions to climate change. That's news. Let's make it news. Let's make it so. Let's rally the tech sector. If you or someone you love are in the tech sector, then please
come here.
Come to radish.org and check out all these conversations, this interconnected network, this topic tree of conversations. Actually, the topic tree is a good one, and the conversation are the fruits of that tree, right? And therefore the potential generators of other trees. So we need to spread the word that big things are being explored and developed within the realm of intelligence, far beyond artificial intelligence, and far beyond, the sort of more passive forms of collective intelligence that have been put to use, for example, in the internet, social media, and whatnot. And from passive collection of data to this truly hyper advanced form of intelligence called radical collective intelligence, consisting of a community of people and platform. See, that's what needs to be the story, right? That the tech sector, there's really two stories in one. One is that the tech sector is getting on top of this, is in a very serious way getting on top of this climate change problem, rather than leaving it to what, the Army Corps of Engineers, the EPA. The EPA has been gutted, right?
They were ineffective. They're not geared towards this. They're a penalties organization.
Yeah.
That's all they are, is a babysitter.
Yeah, they're not a forward-thinking.
They're not
climate modeling.
They've never created a better environment. They just are slowly trying to keep this one from getting worse. That's all they do.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, well, what I'd like to do, I guess what I'd like to do is I'd like to get on Radish and build the virtual plan and have a bunch of rooms set up for people to come to, because I'm kind of like, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
So then we could start filling up those rooms with links, and some of those rooms we might even be able to answer some questions, and some of those rooms might even be visited by programmers, and if we build it, they will come. But there are no websites out there that I am aware of that for save the world type of websites. That why not develop the plan for what we do when the collapse happens? I mean, you say that we're doomed. You say we're going to get hit left and right in the jaw. We're facing Muhammad Ali, and I'm a 64-year-old man. So but the truth is, we have tools. We just have to stop thinking negatively, like you just did, and start thinking that we can use these tools. I mean, we can. We're programmed to think negatively. That's what's happening. We need to start thinking positively and start building it. If we get on Radish and build this plan, Save the World website, all these rooms filled with all this information can be plugged into radical collective intelligence as soon as it's ready. And then we can start delivering answers right away. The law, and hopefully we'll have another year. But we don't really. We need to get the Arctic refrozen this winter. It's really imperative, I think, that we do it this winter. And that's a huge difference. I mean, imagine the whole Arctic area, including Greenland, going into a deep freeze. What does that do to the situation of abrupt climate change? Well, that's going to change a lot of stuff. And I've showed you in my hope paper, we can cause the Arctic to go into a deep freeze. And I really think we can. I mean, we have all kinds of different ways. So we just need to come out of our hazes that we're programmed to just think wrong, and we need to wake up and get this done. Go to work. Let's do it. But we have to. Then we can start by building this. Building this on Radish. We can build it so you can plug it right into collective, radical collective intelligence. What what I'm saying?
Totally. And in fact, what you're going to see on the homepage of Radish itself starting next week, will be a topic tree, and in the topic tree we have the topic of solutions to abrupt climate change, and there's 4 subtopics that we've developed so far. There will be many more, and members of Radish will be encouraged to generate as many as they wish. That makes sense. But here are the 4 that we started with. One is geoshading, cooling the planet. Another is holistic land management, sequestering carbon through transforming how we look at land and animals and grazing and really looking at it all holistically, agriculture, et cetera, et cetera. And another is fusion energy, and essentially free energy. And then another are political, cultural, and social solutions to abrupt climate change. And then those branch off into several others, including the Hungerless Games, the elimination of organized crime as an Uber strategy, and so on. So, and within those, there's solutions for economic transformation, such as those included in the Hungerless Games, solutions for cultural transformation, such as those that come out of the whole arcology movement and intentional communities, and the culture of jumping into and embracing radical collective intelligence, right? And saying, wow, that sounds like a really big, ambitious thing, but you know what? We've already got most of the pieces. Let's cobble this thing together and give it a go. What else are we going to do? Sit back and wait for collapse? Oh my goodness. It's going to be doubly catastrophic, just like I mentioned several minutes ago. So for me, this is the obvious move. Tech sector, let's wake ourselves up. Let's wake each other up. And let's let the world know that we are coalescing around this problem through multiple vectors, one of which is radical collective intelligence. There'll be many, many ways that the tech sector is going to deal with abrupt climate change, not exclusively through radical collective intelligence, but radical collective intelligence will take all of those ideas and concepts for addressing abrupt climate change and put them into a holistic context wherein they can be co-optimized with many other solutions in a holistic way, as opposed to a fragmented way, right? Looking at Mother Earth as a whole and all of her children, all as a whole, and looking at sets of solutions holistically, right, as opposed to one by one individually. How successful have been, the Save the Rhino campaigns. Alan Savory, pretty much the godfather of holistic land management, has said that if the lands were managed holistically, the rhino poaching would come to a screeching halt, because the people there, the inhabitants, would not tolerate it. They wouldn't permit it. Anyway, but the key is that we look at all of these solutions and these individual solutions. We look at all solutions holistically.
That is the lens with which we must view them.
Yes.
It must be viewed through if this is going to work,
yeah,
the outcome has to be a known And the known is a holistic rebirth on every aspect, how planes are built.
Yeah.
Okay. If we have planes.
Yeah.
So the holistic lens is how everything must be viewed, and RCI will be generating those suggestions with that mandate.
Yeah. Exactly.
And Al, I think that next week, Radish will be accepting people joining. So you only have one more week to wait. But I think, and I know you've done the work, so I'm just going to say it out loud to everybody that's listening, because he's done the work. I've read his material. You should just collate it in your mind in such a way that when we can get on Radish next week and join, you're ready to, as soon as you join, and it takes 24 hours to get all your data in and all that, because they're going to create files on everybody. Not files so much, but interests and knowledge and what you bring to the table. What are your specialists? Are you good at gardening? Are you good at honey, raising bees? So there's what the filters are designed to get you to talk about your interests as much as possible, so we can use knowledge of the people that join Radish and put it in the appropriate spots and get you in those conversations. So if you like to collect bees and old cars, tell us that. But Adam, just so you know, be ready. Be ready to get on there and start communicating next week and doing these one-on-ones with Jamin, and he'll walk you through how to do this stuff, because we're jumping off. It's here.
Absolutely.
And I would encourage anybody watching this this program that we've had going today, I would strongly encourage you to look into Adam's stuff. Adam, if you want to plug where your stuff is, where your files are, now's a good time to do that, and let people know that they can start gathering information there as well. Many people are interested in what you're talking about, and you can't do it alone. They're waiting to find your videos as well.
Okay, well, thank you. That's good. Thank you. If you don't mind, well, just go to roadtolifeplan.com. That's all you have to do. That's just roadtolifeplan.com. And then there'll be a link there at the top to the videos, the important ones. There's some junk on there. Well, not junk, but the important ones are directly on this link. I'm going to be posting another one here pretty soon. And also you can download the PDF files of three papers I think I've posted so far. The Road to Life Plan is one of them.
Excellent.
So it's just, that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, everybody out there that's is dipped in and out of this conversation, participated or just viewed, you've already given a little bit of your eyeballs to us. So jump on the roadtolifeplan.org. Just jump on it. And it's just, there's an order in which he's written and produced his documents, but makes no difference. Pick any one of them and read them, and it'll become something you're going to really start looking into and reading his content. We are actually physically doing radical collective intelligence, like three little bees inside the motherboard.
Yeah.
We just did a radical collective intelligence by putting the right people in the right room at the right time to get the right solution. We just did it.
With the right information.
We just did it.
It's true.
But look how slow that was. 7 minutes. That's why we have RCI, because this has to become supersonic.
Yeah.
7 minutes to do that.
Yeah. Well, see, in future versions of RCI, you're going to have basically, integrated whiteboards and different sections.
Every tool you need to lay it out graphically.
Exactly. And with it laid out, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So you don't have to
text to speech. It's going to all be there. Speech to text.
Right. But also, be able to screen share and bring in images and all that. I mean, we can do that now with Google Hangout. So that capability is already there, and for us, it's been transformational. So, but more and more tools that make it easier and easier to compartmentalize knowledge and information, and be able to extract exactly what you need at any given moment. And a new culture will emerge. It'll sort of be like, for lack of a better analogy, like the martial arts, like kung fu. There's different gradations. So there will be, you know, triple black belt solution areas.
That's right.
Right. Talking very high bandwidth at a very high level with, you know, world experts in myriad, you know, areas and fields.
That's right.
And wow, you know, the stuff they'll be coming up with. Right.
That's right. See, here's the thing. Here's the thing. For the audience, this is for the audience. Just think about this. Nuclear engineers were all called when Fukushima happened. Okay, they were not called in that way for what's the place in Russia?
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl. That was not the response. And Chernobyl is, you know, dead, gone. People are dying. It's done. Fukushima was worse, but they convened. The experts convened by a phone call and text message, and they got on computers, the ones that couldn't get to Vienna and to the International Nuclear Regulatory Agency and all these things. But they convened and then they delivered guys, and they had a plan, like a road to life plan. The first guys in are the guys in their 60s. Okay, so they went in to stop it. Then the second guys in were also guys in their 50s and 60s, and they kept it just a basic fundamental plan like that. So the young guys, the engineers that are going to come in to fix it, are not exposed to the radiation, and the old guys are, but their clocks are already ticking. It's just a matter of filing things correctly. But those guys got together, and they're still talking about it. But then they go home to their families, and they got to take their grandkids fishing, and they have to go to their son's wedding, and they have these life events that lets those emergency meetings only happen periodically. And there's incredible explosions of knowledge when the Fukushima crew has been together and what they're generating for the next problem and how they're going to fix and prevent. In the meantime, those are just weeks and months out of their lives because they have to go back to do other stuff and earn an income and all that. So this allows them to do that whenever they want. Whenever on the boat, when you're fishing, you can have an idea, and it's your Watson moment. And instead of having to jot it down or post-it note it, you pick up your phone and go call collective intelligence and start texting your idea to it while you're catching the fish. It's the most efficient use of the human creation.
Yeah, or just speaking your
just speak your idea and then send it in a tag it off, and so it'll get generated and input it.
Yeah, dump it down the memory hole, and let radical collective intelligence digest it.
The entire world is going to be involved in a full-time conference for the rest of our existence. If this works.
That's it.
We're all in a full-time conference at all times.
That's right. With the support of various layers of artificial intelligence. What could be more powerful? And that artificial intelligence, among other platforms, seek to connect us to each other and to form the right groups to be addressing the right topics, the right opportunities, the right solutions, the right problems, et cetera, et cetera.
So is radical collective intelligence, is it analyzing this conversation?
It will be, but it's not at the present. Well, right now it is analyzing it in so far as the three of us and the folks watching live and the folks who will watch this recording are analyzing this conversation. But there's.
So are you looking for conversations for CI to analyze?
Yes, always. In fact, in the series that we're kicking off on holistic land management, I'm including a TED Talk that Alan Savory gave on the topic, which is fascinating, followed by an interview that I did of him, 2.5 years ago or so. So these are examples of things that we're bringing to RCI to be analyzed. At first by people, ultimately by artificial intelligence.
Well, first by people, then artificial intelligence, and then back to the people. That's the circle.
Yeah.
We get it.
Well, it's a dialectic.
It goes back and forth.
It's a tennis.
The solution might come out, and it might be the correct best solution, and it also could be mathematically impossible. We're not asking it to give us all the ones that will work. We're asking it to give it all the solutions. So then you look at it and go, that can't work. then you add that piece of data and send it back in. Because you're going to look at it with your brain and go, the math calculation just happens for you. You know, I would miss it. You would be like, that would be a great thing, but that doesn't exist. We can't make it happen. So a lot of the solutions will be resubmitted over and over again. And we make those choices until it's able to make those choices. Eventually, like with the 3 brains getting bigger, eventually there'll be a layer of this that's going to be resubmitting it to itself before. It's going to get better and better at digesting. Processing. It's just going to keep building those processes. But yeah, that's it's just exciting stuff. I mean, it's late at night and we've been on the computer all day and we're still excited because this is this is exciting stuff. And if it doesn't happen, we go out being intellects. And if it does happen, then we win. So either way, this is a good way to exercise your brain. And everybody who's watching, turn your cams on, man. Get on this. Start talking. Give us your input. The reason it's fun and glamorous for us is because I look at these guys all the time. We need more people. More people. Please get your cams going. Say one thing, say anything. But keep joining.
Hard.
Keep joining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to bring this together. I'm looking forward to next week.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were strategizing about it just earlier. Some conceptual changes, some movements, some betterment of our times. Just refining until we get it as right as we can and get the message out to the most techies, possibly in the most locations we can. We're just gonna really do it. And this is it. This is the firework moment. And if it doesn't go according to plan at all next week, we are going to be talking to people. We're going to make a ripple, man. It's going to be a rock in the middle of a pond, and it's going to be ripples. And they will get to shore, and they'll make erosion. It's just as a matter of time. But we're throwing the rock in next week.
Yep.
And it's going to splash and ripple. Might splash and get everybody wet. Might be a slow erosion, like I hear out there in the ocean. But it's going to start when the rock hits the water.
Yeah.
Yep. It's going to be fun.
We're thinking of a couple other locations.
It's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's going to be great, man.
So I had some business cards made today. Let me see. Do you guys see me or you?
We see you.
We see you.
When I'm talking. Okay, so I'm going to show you my business card I had. It's 100% recycled paper. So, can you see it?
It's a little blurry. Back it up.
Or no, maybe you have to bring it closer.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, maybe bring it a little closer.
There we go. A little closer.
A little closer. Closer.
Creator.
Okay, that's good. Right there.
Uh-huh.
Road to
I'm holding it as still as I can.
That's good. It's okay.
Yep. Very
it looks
good.
fantastic.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's backwards to me.
Well, bring 1,000 of those with you, buddy.
Yeah, I got 250.
All right, well, they'll be gone in about 10 minutes.
I made some flyers too. I sent you a copy of it. Should check it out. It's one page. Because I talk about I talk about radish and stuff, and
All good things, I hope.
Yeah, it's exciting. Microsoft is, you're talking Microsoft, Google, that whole area. I mean, they're the biggest brains in the world. I mean, these are the smartest people in the world. I used to live up there. I had a house in Lake Hills there in Bellevue for like 20 years. And a lot of my friends worked at Microsoft. I even had a couple people rent rooms in my house that worked at Microsoft. I remember I had a Russian guy who was from Siberia, and he was working for Microsoft as a programmer. He wrote code, and he was a really brilliant young man. And he said, I never forget, he said when he made his couple million, he was going to go back to Siberia. He said he didn't like our country because it was a police state. He said he liked Siberia better.
Well,
he said He said, you can walk down streets of Siberia with a bottle of vodka in your hand if you want. Nobody will care.
Yeah, well, that's not a duty station most policemen want to get sent to, so I'm pretty sure they don't have any law enforcement there. But a lot of other Russias, there's quite a bit of law enforcement, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I had some friends that worked at Microsoft. I'm sure they're all gone now, but
There's a lot of people who've come in and to replace them. So lots of people at Microsoft now, and that'll be a really great initial audience, because imagine the buzz within Microsoft. Well, what are we doing about climate change? What's anyone doing about climate change?
Right.
Why shouldn't the tech industry jump in?
Right.
Right.
Why aren't we working on this?
And if
we should.
Yeah.
What better place to put your philanthropy money?
Exactly.
I mean, why are we not doing something to prepare for collapse?
That's right.
When collapse happens, some positive things are going to happen. I mean, the government will be gone. The money will be gone. These are actually positive things if we look at it the right way.
They can. They can be.
Yeah, because you know, without money, you don't have to worry about paying their rent, or all you have to do is worry about getting food. Well, if we can solve that problem, now we've eliminated a whole lot of problems by getting rid of money. Now we get down to the basic facts, the basic needs, and that we can do, and don't waste our time on all this trivial stuff that don't mean anything.
Well, Adam, let me just say this about that. The one of the things I would submit to you to place at a high priority in the road to life, post-collapse, one of the most urgent things that I think would be needed is a in-place, ready-to-launch plan to get food to everybody. Because if there's enough food to go around, that will prevent chaos. If there is not enough food to go around, chaos will ensue. Because
well, that's where I thought that collective intelligence would really come into play.
Yeah, no,
because if you build a plan for collapse, I mean, just be more directed and you know, start filling in all the blank squares that add up to survival after the collapse, when the collapse happens, and then people will start populating those squares, and then and then say, okay, we need a team over on this square, and we need a team over here, and we need a team over there. And as they have a place to go, people start populating those places and filling it with information and doing their own Google Hangouts conversations and stuff. And I don't know, that's kind of the way I see it going.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not as diplomatic as you, Jamie or Jamin. I get too forceful, I guess. I don't mean to, sorry.
No, it's all right. Look, I maintain the real big opportunity is preventing collapse from happening in the first place.
No question about it.
For the reasons we've discussed. And so the message needs to go out. Look, we're on a path towards collapse. We can prevent it. The way to prevent it is with radical collective intelligence as the meta solution, the goose that lays the golden eggs of all the myriad solutions that we need. And we survived and lived happily ever after.
Yeah, the sooner tech gets on board, literally like days, ideally, Tuesday afternoon, as soon as tech gets on board and scales up to the challenge, we're already in better shape day one. While they're just talking about it, we're in better shape because they're going to get the urgency as well. And then we will still be free to do post-collapse scenarios, and they should be done. But that is not, like you said, to remain positive. I'm remaining positive that if they scale up by the end of next week and they get it and they're talking about it, then they like their lives. They're gonna fix it. They're gonna make that thing happen because they like things the way they are, with their pay and their circumstances. And you know, it's hard to think hard all day long, but it beats digging ditches. Okay, so they have a lot to lose, and they're the only sector that can fix it. And when they connect those dots, it's going to be a eureka moment for all of them. Why are we working on this? Why didn't you say something? What am I working on this other thing for? We're building rocket engines on Sunday with you. That's not what we should be working on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm selling my drone.
Yeah.
I got to work on this.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
Well, that's where I thought collective intelligence could work in. It's like, you know, you want to find, like your question about food. So that's going to be the main thing, food and water.
Yes.
So the part of the collapse plan is for the collective intelligence to take on that topic. So the question would be like, how is our community going to get food and water? So a topic team is developed for that. Well, every community is different, and so then you know, so say 1,000 communities come in there and they have 1,000 teams. That it's just like the example that I said. You know, so 1,000 teams, and you have the collective intelligence takes that information and develops a standard operating procedure that is adaptable to every situation. So then, you know, 10 million or 100 million more communities might go to Radical Collect or radish.org and say, you know, and go to that topic and get the answer that Radish only had to evaluate 1,000 times. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I do. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I follow you completely.
Yeah. So quite an index of conversations, of documents, of plans, of inventions, of whole programs will be developed for that need for clean water for communities. And in addition to that, a well-honed artificial intelligence capability will help guide and direct the individuals within that community to organize themselves in specific ways. Not just, oh, here's this one group that needs to be formed. Maybe 7 different groups need to be formed for that one community. 7 different committees, right? One for land use, one for governance, one for existing water infrastructure, one for, you know, systems of reservoirs and, you know, dams and whatnot, such as they may be, et cetera, right? Different committees, organizations, different groups, and the AI would be there to support, as well as connections with other successful organizations and other communities that have gone before them that want to share their knowledge, et cetera, right? That's the application of radical collective intelligence to this problem.
Would it help if I produced a list of topic rooms? Would that help you at all?
Yeah. Well, why don't you just speak them out?
Some
of them, they come to mind. What comes to mind?
Okay, well, the things that immediately need to happen after the collapse happens, and the collapse happens, the power will be shut down. So the most important thing, I think, or one of the most important things that needs to come up right away is the internet, because we have to be able to talk to each other. So, and electricity enough for the internet would need to come up. And there's all kinds of questions, you know, what are the public going to do? You know, without a plan, everybody's going to be going crazy and be rioting and all that kind of stuff. But with a plan, at least the people that know the plan will be able to maybe be organized and go to the place that gets the power, that can get the internet, you know, and we'll try to educate and tell everybody the best we can, but you know, not everybody's going to hear. But when they do hear, you know, what they're going to do is so I mean, a lot of people that'll come back fresh, brand new. You know, they'll be like getting hit broadsided, but their first question is going to be, well, you know, what do we do? so if we have a plan, you know, an answer that says, okay, you go over here. We got a group of people over here. We've got the wastewater thing figured out. We've got water coming. We've got food. We're going to start. We've got plans here for how to start growing our own food. We've got contact with farmers. You know, and so these kind of issues need to be talked about and pre-planned before it happens. You know, what's going to happen with the hospital? What's going to happen with medical services? Well, you know, if the government's shut down, I mean, what if the plan comes from financial collapse and not from global warming? What if it said just our economy just collapsed? You know, so all of a sudden you wake up and the government's not at work anymore, and the banks are closed and the grocery stores are closed. So now you're not devastated, but all of a sudden everything doesn't work. Well, is that reason to say that there's no life after that? No. So we need to start planning and get a plan together. Like I said, cities, they have plans, you know, for 2-week power outages and stuff like that, but they don't make plans because they're not paid to. It's out of their scope of work. So there's a wide open field there for the tech companies to put something together that where we can start the public can build their own virtual plan.
Yeah, and you know, using something like a glorified Sim City.
That's what he's talking.
Right.
Yeah,
he's talking about building it out in AI like Sim City.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. A glorified Sim City for every community,
and that's going to be wonderful. I mean, because you got to have people that know how to make a battery, because we're eventually going to run out of batteries. So you're going to run out of batteries, but if you have solar panels already installed in your bunker area or in your community areas, you will be able to convert that to electricity to get you up and running. But the batteries will die of old age, so you got to have the battery people in one room, and you know, just all these things have to be addressed.
Yeah. Holistically.
And in fact, now's the time to put the panels up. This summer they should be going up, because we need, you know, when the grid fails, it makes no difference. I live near a community of Amish. They're off the grid, but they use power all day long. But it's in batteries in their basements. They have banks of, sometimes if they're running a business, there'll be 1,000 batteries in banks, marine deep cycles, and the whole ceiling is generating. And there's an on and off switch for good and bad days of weather. They do it. They do. It can be done. It's simple.
This needs to be think tanked.
Well, we're doing it. We're think tanking it because
it you know, I mean, say the hydro or the coal and oil powered power plants will be shut down, okay, because the trains won't be running, so they won't be hauling coal and oil. So that leaves nuclear power. Well, let's not count on that. Okay. So what do we got left? We got hydroelectric. So hydroelectric probably provides something like 10 or 15% of our electrical supply. Well, that's what we have to figure on living on. We have to figure out how we're going to live on 10 or 15% supply of electricity.
Well, we're not going to be at 100% maybe ever again. That's correct.
Right. So maybe we'll have brownouts on it scheduled. You know? But we have to pre-plan this so people know what, you know, okay, I got an hour I can be on the internet. That's my time. My initials, my first name initials are Z through K. So I'm on it this time. You know, and you have to develop a volunteer system. We can't. I mean, if people want to break the rules, then there's nothing we can do about it. But other than that, we got to try.
Yeah, you're onto it. You're onto it. That's exactly right.
So yeah, I hope the tech sector gets involved.
They have to get involved.
Yeah, they have to.
There's not a question of whether or not they're going to get involved. It may not be Tuesday, it may not be Friday, but they're the solutionaries, and we, the other people, we will all be providing important data. But they're the only architects and builders that can do this. That's the only. This is the sector that invented this medium, where they can't go anywhere else to improve it, but there. Period. That's the end of the story. There is no plan B when it comes to the techies.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No planet B,
there's
and there's
no planet
no plan
B, and there's
B.
no plan B. That's it. Yeah. No, it's techie. It's literally techies or bust.
Yeah, it's Star Trek or Archie Bunker.
Tech. You know what? I'll tell you about techies. I've known a lot of them, and you know, they're just people like us.
Right.
And Jamin's a techie. We're all just people, you know.
That's right.
So and you know, you might be smart and you know, and pass all these IQ tests and stuff, but you're always learning, you know. So there's people that are in prison that are pretty smart, you know. I mean, there's prison people that are you know, just naturally smart and don't have degrees, you know, and stuff like that, and aren't. You know, even Microsoft, they'll hire you according to your ability, not according to your education. You know, most of the high tech companies do that, from what I hear.
Yep. Yeah, that's quite accurate. So anyway, yeah, it's techies or bust. So let's make it techies. Let's do this. And you know, the good news is we can start with we don't need the entire tech sector. You know, even with 0.1% of the tech sector, we'd have enough techies to build out a really incredible compendium of platforms for radical CI.
Yeah.
So, you know, come one, come all. You know, but the faster we get on this, the faster we solve this. And if we miss our window, we missed our window. So let's not miss our window. Let's get on this. We have real urgency here. What could possibly be more urgent than saving life on Earth and putting ourselves on the road to life? What could be more urgent?
Right.
So, techies or bust. How about it, techies? We do this? Or are we going to wish we did?
Yeah. Some people are just really hard to wake up.
Yeah, but the thing is...
But I'm not saying they will be, but...
Yeah, but we finally have a really compelling program to wake them up. All of us dressed in our respective Star Wars costumes. Right?
Yeah.
It's their favorite topic when they're not working.
You
know? Let me
what are you going to be, Jamie?
I'm going to be the retired federal agent.
Oh, that's right, dude. That's right.
That's exactly the segue I was looking for. This is really, we're starting to gel, because I went in real quick briefly. I heard you talking about even just prisoners that are smart.
Hey, there's Nick. Mike.
Hey.
Hey, Michael. Welcome back.
So
thanks.
So Adam, I've been involved in some pretty incredible international drug cases, and some local stuff, and some regular stuff, and some real boring, mundane stuff. And the level of intelligence and creativity in the underworld is exactly the same as it is in this world. Okay, it's because it's the same species using their minds to figure out the best way to do what's best for them. And there's people that are poor at it, and people that are stunningly effective. some of the smartest people I've ever met were organizational leaders of criminal organizations that were just like Wharton School double major PhD people that'll knock your socks off talking to them. They talk on a whole nother level about, you know, logistically moving 100 tons of heroin in a 3-day period to 76 countries, and that's their business, and they do it. So these people are great. Are they good people? That's not for me to decide. Do they provide an asset level for us? You better believe it. They can't be discounted because they're not in the Girl Scouts. We don't have that luxury. If a bad guy comes up with the best solution, who cares? It's still the best solution.
And the point is just to get people moving in the right direction.
Man,
moving together.
It's a hard slog to get this stuff going. But because of Jamin's background and his Michael and these kind of guys, they could conceive this years before Radish was even a thing. It was circling in their minds. And the way these gentlemen think and people like them, it is a long slog. But what's going to happen is when it starts to creak forward, creak, like pulling a wrench, and it breaks free.
Yeah.
And it's going to creak, and we're creaking now. We're like, God, no one's watching. Creak. But it's going to go boom, and it's going to take off, and it's going to be unstoppable.
That's it.
And you guys figured that out. But that nut's going to get broke loose.
That's it. We're going to break it loose, and we're going to break it loose this month of September.
That's right.
Yep.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, how's it going? So, we're going to break it loose.
Yeah. It just seems really difficult now because right now it's a knuckle buster, and we don't have the strength. We don't have the strength to break this loose. We need the techies to break this loose. They have the strength to grease and lube that nut to get this thing going.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
It's kind of like I'd often vision it like I'm in this massive river and I'm like one twig that's floating in this river, and I can see I don't know, I can see, for some reason I can see, and I know that we need not go that direction. We need to go this direction. And I can also see that if we create a blockage down the road, the river will divert and go into the direction it should go in. And my twig is joined with Jamin's and Jamie's, and you know, and soon we're going to have a whole bunch of, we're going to create a cluster that's going to cause other clusters to join it, and then other logs. And pretty soon we're going to have a dam that's just going to float into place and divert the river.
Well, I mean, how beautiful is that? To put it in its most simplest form, okay? Michael, Jamin, I'm late to the party, Adam, other people, Michael, the other Michaels, many people involved, many I still haven't met, may never meet, not my role.
Yeah.
But these guys have built a beaver dam one stick at a time. That's how you build a beaver dam. The beaver has to have the insight to know which trees are best, cut them down, not get eaten by wolves, take them to the water, and fasten them to the ground in a rushing stream to build the dam so he can get a female so they can mate. Now, he's thinking about mating when he's chopping the first tree down. And these guys did it. They built the dam one stick at a time. Now we got to find our mate. And then the babies are born of holistic solutions. One stick at a time you did this, man. And you got to know that the whole point of this dam is so you can have your lady in the winter, because she's going to go to the guy who's got the dam. She's not going to the guy who's got the raft. Yeah.
Our lady is the tech sector.
That's right.
The sexy tech sector.
Bravo to you guys, Michael, Jamin, everybody, Adam. Bravo. for identifying this and then going and cutting those trees down. Oh, by the way, did I mention they cut the trees down with their teeth? So that's some hard shit, but they do it. They do it. One nibble at a time. How many millions of nibbles does it take to build that dam? All the while, coyotes and wolves are circling every 2 hours.
Yeah.
Then you got to convince this warm furry creatures follow you down this hole and come on in. But the whole time he's doing it, that's what he's thinking of. That's what you were thinking of, to get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Come on, folks, join us. Watch these videos. Send them to your friends. You know, share this stuff. Share. Press send everybody, your mom, cousin, the guy you work with. Just send these out to say, what do you think about this? And they'll say, look at those fatties on the porch. And then they'll say, but goddamn, they make sense. What about that Adam and Michael? I don't know, man. Guy's in Thailand. What's going on? I don't know, but he makes a lot of fucking sense. You know what I'm saying? Send these videos out. You're not doing the world a favor by keeping them to yourself. It's not for production quality. I get that.
Send the love. With love from Thailand.
Wow. I saw that movie, Michael.
Yep.
So we've identified why we need them. And they haven't heard our call yet because we're the little thing on Horton Hears a Who. We're here, but no one can hear except we hope the tech sector, big ears, will hear. Because everybody else isn't listening. We're going, wait, we're here. Look at us. We're right here. We exist. Don't kill us. With a piece of lint, wasn't it? Something like that? There was a whole Whoville on this piece of lint. But the more voices we get, the louder it becomes.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, we're facing reality, and we are talking solutions, real solutions. And
the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, considering, we have to come up with a plan to reduce population, nutrition, die-offs, and, a lottery system of some sort for people to generate additional people. Pretty evident that we have too many bodies on this thing, maybe by half. So, obviously no one's getting kicked off or killed. We just have to change our breeding habits. You really need 5 children. Well, if you're a farmer, you might. But what if you're a single librarian? Maybe you don't. That'll have to be something the rules of the group that emerges comes up with, because we certainly don't want to deny anybody any rights. But first and foremost, we can't deny the planet her rights, which we've done.
Yeah. So we need a holistic set of solutions. That will holistically address all of these problems and opportunities.
There really are more opportunities than problems. That's a really good statement, because, like Adam said earlier, as long as we're calling them problems, they are problems. Since we can't change the outcome currently, why call them problems? They're just circumstances, and whether or not we made them or we didn't make them, they're here. So these circumstances provide us the opportunity to make a correction and possibly following with a redirection. Because up until something like this is going to happen, there's no chance we could have turned this around. It's going to take this to change this. Really good call, you guys. Really good call. Really exhaustive examination of multiple facets. And this is how we do it. These are the conversations that will be going into Radish and all the other, hopefully millions of conversations that are generated by people linking up, linking in, and jumping on. Because this is how it's going to be done. They're going to data mine this call, and this was a good call. Covered a lot of material, went over some things several times. You have to, look at things a lot sometimes to figure out the best way it should be. Not to do that as an error. And so sometimes it seems like we're retreading a lot of, oh, I heard that in the last video, and there's some truth in that. But it's not just repetition that's happening here. What it is a refining process. Because I have only been working on this project for a year. Michael has been on it much longer with Jamin. Adam was doing his own project and then merged here. And so the refinement is when the coal is worked for centuries into a diamond, and then we take it out and we work that diamond till its facets are perfect. And that's what this process is. And we want you to join it. Bring all your ideas. So it's not that we're going to keep repeating things so much as we're going to all begin to fully understand them. Michael says a lot of stuff sometimes, and Jamin, that I don't understand. And I'm never going to waste my energy trying to be a coder or to keep up with them on screen sharing, because that's a waste of my time. What I'm good at isn't that. But I listen to what they say, and there's always nuggets. And I've been on a bunch of these calls, and always nuggets come out. And that's the thing. You're not going to get those nuggets if you don't revisit the conversation. It's critical. And the more voices, quite frankly, that are willing to join us in this format, the better quality the nuggets will become. And then we'll transfer it to Radical Collective Intelligence, and that will be generating the nuggets for us so we can be more efficient as well. Right now, we're generating the nuggets, but there's only 4, 5, 6, 7 of us that are doing that, and we're still coming up with some gems. So imagine if we had 1,000 people right now, right here. The whole screen, you couldn't see it because it was a tiny little bunch of dots, and everybody was just chatting away.
Or 1,000 people in 200 different rooms with an average of 5 per room.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
What a breakdown.
And then imagine all the multiple connections between
and similarities.
Yeah, and among the connections would be individuals who are in both rooms, right? One meets on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, another meets Tuesday, Thursday, and they do both.
There's a metallurgist who also likes woodworking.
Exactly. Those are among the myriad connections between topics. And then the logical connections in the topic trees, which contain multiple topics. So, and think of all that whole network structure of interconnected topics and the people participating in conversations on those topics as like a giant brain.
It is a giant brain.
It's a giant.
These are synaptic connections we're making.
And they include our brains and artificial intelligence, among other forms.
Right. Well, really, our brains are the cells that make up the brain of artificial intelligence. So in a circular manner, it's really not artificial intelligence. It's us harnessing our intelligence in a new way.
Yeah.
Because it's only as good as whatever we put in. And there's no robots putting things in. It's us. And we'll get a better answer, and we'll put more stuff in. But we just keep refining it like we're doing here. It's not coming up with its own data. It's refining our data as it refines it for us, and we refine our approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, something you said there, Jamin, about imagining different rooms. Makes me imagine, instead of joining, us here, which of course people are welcome to do. Imagine, groups like ours doing hangouts on topics that are of, interest to them, that they have feel they have some calling into, something that touches their lives personally. It's not necessarily getting on here with us and geeking out, right? There could be a whole bunch of, cooler folks out there who get together, and maybe their focus is, on one of the particular planetary problems we face, or a people problem, such as hunger, or class inequality, or any of these drivers that have compounding effects throughout the economy and ecology, right, of the Earth. So I like this picture of all of these different breakout rooms that are semi-autonomous. And I say semi because, of course, they don't exist in sealed-off compartments per se. They're part of a larger conversation. And in fact, as Jamin pointed out, some may be in one room and, may be summoned to another. And if they heed that summons, then next thing you know, beam me up, Scotty. Here I am.
That's really fantastic. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it was fantastic just because it was fantastic. But let me example that out for the people that are watching or may see this. I'm going to break it down to its simplest form. There's, I think, 4 people in this conversation currently. There are 2 people that I can identify as exceptionally clever tech thinkers that think at a very high level. Okay. Adam, I don't know all of his background, but he has picked up tech quickly and is now streaming his material, which is he's a thinker. Adam's a thinker, and he has thought through what he believes his approach is. I'm from law enforcement. I started off as a local cop, then a deputy sheriff. Then I went to a federal agency and worked on international drug cases. My background used the information that gentlemen like Jamin made. I used the tools. I never one time did I say I need to learn how to make these tools. And I'm never going to say that. I'm never probably going to screen share, just so you guys know. I'm going to keep coming to these rooms where you wouldn't expect to find me, and most law enforcement people wouldn't enter. They would go to the law enforcement room, the cool gadget room, and those rooms, and the taser rooms, and the, blah, blah, blah. But I'm in this room because I can contribute here. And I've been there, done that with law enforcement, and I will go to those rooms as well. And security and management of people, products, and safety, I will contribute all of it. But I'm cutting my teeth in with this group of people who, outside of this radish.org, I would never have met and would not have these high-level mental interactions with. This is exactly what those rooms are going to look like, because I'm a football fan from Cleveland that was a cop. Okay, so that's not the guy you expect in the room. What are you doing? Why are you in here? This is not the sports betting room.
Yeah.
So Michael explained that perfectly, and I wanted to point out to our audience and potential audience in the future, this is the room. That's why you should join. Come in.
Yeah.
If you like yarn, come in and we'll talk about yarn. But we can't discuss anything until you get here.
I'd like to say something about collective intelligence. I wrote it in my paper today for this video I'm doing. But so collective intelligence does modeling, right? And it's artificial intelligence that does modeling. So am I correct to then imagine that those models are like infinitely adjustable?
Basically, yeah.
So if they can be tweaked, people could play with them.
Exactly.
So a team of scientists could be working on something and model it in AI and tweak it in all kinds of ways. So here's a quote from Albert Einstein. He says, "Imagination is more important than knowledge."
Oh, there's no doubt about it.
So it's our imagination and our intuition that really, the things that Einstein and other people have come up with it, always said, oh, you know, I came up to it. It just came to me. You know, I was sleeping one night and it came to me in a dream. You know, and you know, so it's our intuition. It's that spirituality that really answers the questions. And if you can tweak those models in those directions, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, well, you can drive the model with whatever set of solutions you want, and it's really a model of planet Earth starting with t equals 0 right now in the state of everything, and then simulate the passage of time and the seasons and whatnot, and then layer on top of that whatever solutions you want to layer on top. That's it. That's a high level description of how.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and then the optimization layer brings in AI, but to test and efficiently, as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible, determine the optimal set of solutions according to that particular mathematical model of the planet.
Mm.
Does that answer? Did I answer your question, Adam?
I will say this. What Albert Einstein said, that quote that Adam read, that imagination is more important than knowledge. That's literally a description of me. I'm in this project because we discussed it last year. I agreed with your thesis, and I imagined it to be possible.
Mm.
There's a ton of stuff I don't know, and a ton of stuff I'm not going to waste time learning. Yeah, I will do a lot of learning in this process, but I'm not going to bog myself down with things that other people can do better than me. So we'll just let them do those things. I'm never going to have to jump on and say, let me code this for a second. That's a conversation we'll never have. But I have imagination. You know who else had imagination? Walt Disney. Okay? He invented virtual reality fantasy. He was the first one. Come here and you're in Disneyland. And he imagined it. And then when it was done being built, he had all the knowledge. He actually built it to gain the knowledge, as did you. But that was the original virtual reality. Tinkerbell, Peter Pan, come on over. Look at these snow cones. Look, there's Mickey Mouse right there, walking right over your grandson, right? Did that in the 40s.
Talk about, virtuality and building Disneyland. I mean, in this plan that would be built for the collapse, you also have to plan for how you're going to live after the collapse.
Yes.
So in that life, why don't we build a utopia?
That's the goal.
I mean, if we're going to build a virtual life to live in, let's build utopia.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in. All righty. Well, gentlemen, I am fading quickly here.
Yeah, we're worn out.
Yeah,
I am.
I'm too.
This has been an awesome conversation, and look forward to the next one.
Yeah, tomorrow sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to ease into the night now and let the ocean take us away.
All right.
Here on Whidbey Island.
All righty.
Good talking to you guys. You guys, beautiful, man.
Great seeing you guys.
Good night, you guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Good night, Michael.
See you guys soon. Thanks, everyone.
Peace out.
Peace.